Always.
All right. Go ahead and call the meeting to order. Open meeting poster is on the back wall. Everyone please rise for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call. Julie? Tom?
Here.
Mike?
Here.
Brian?
Here.
Everybody's present. Approval of minutes from previous meetings.
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting on Tuesday, September 12th, and special meetings on Tuesday, September 19th, and Wednesday, September 20th.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second for approval of minutes from September 12th, 19th, and 20th. Julie? Tom? Mike?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Motion carries. Claims and payroll.
The property tax was up about 15,000 from last month. Why is that?
It's your last one.
Oh, okay.
They just kind of, it's like a roller coaster. Sometimes, you know, you get a big chunk in, what is it, May, and usually.
Just think when your taxes are due on your house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
April 30th and August 31st.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I noticed on the cell phones, last month they were about $478, and this month $1,200.
The upgraded phones.
Everybody's phones, or
Just about,
Yep.
all the way through.
and you guys pay for all of their phones and the data plans, everything?
Yeah, because it's a municipality, it's an unlimited data type
Okay.
plan, but yes.
So these are gonna be the new amounts every month, or this is what it's just bumped up to for this month?
Just that
Just
month,
that
pay
one.
for the phone. I just hated to get stacked on to four something.
And then I got some utilities for the basketball court. Is there any way we could regulate that?
Shut 'em off. If Raleigh has his way, shut them down.
Shut 'em off.
We probably should do something because there's what do
Is
they
there a
tell you,
way to
mechanism?
put a timer on or something?
Scotland, but
It's your, for lack of a better term, it's your policing up there. That's why they were left on.
1,400 bucks a month.
No, I had Troy go look at them, but I did not ask him what he did. But I'll have an answer for it tomorrow. I'll
On
call
the
him.
treasurer's report, there's a non-sufficient check
Yep.
for $200. Is that person one of the aged accounts receivable?
I do not know.
yeah,
I can't
couldn't
tell you.
tell you that.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
It's possible logic would tell you that may be the case, but then you've got them the other way around too, where they're not on the aged accounts at all, and just happen to have a bounce check.
Because I noticed there's one that's $941. Aged accounts.
On all those aged accounts, when you look at them, and obviously Matt looks at them too, so all of them, but every one of those have been into the office and have sat down with Courtney and working out how to get them from not being on there. Issue being is, we're gonna probably get that one off within a month and a half, but as time creeps, somebody else will maybe
Oh,
take it,
sure.
so we just constantly.
I just worry, with the winter weather, the cooler weather, and those prices tend to go up a little bit too, so. Okay. That's all I had.
Make a motion to pay the claims and payroll.
Second.
Motion and second for approval of claims and payroll. Julie?
Aye.
Tom? Mike?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Manager report, Julie, not here.
I don't think she's gonna be here tonight, excuse Julie, there was nothing really on the agenda for her.
Okay. Tyler?
She was busy with something also, so.
What?
Julian was busy with something up there. I just came from up there a little while ago. So, obviously not the police chief, but he's sick tonight, so I'm here. Good evening. You all have a copy of the monthly report. Really nothing really out of the ordinary for September. Calls were down from last month, but the calls were down. It wasn't quite as busy as last month or the month previous.
With all that rain, everybody's staying inside.
Something.
How are we coming on the theft? We get them solved yet?
It's an ongoing investigation, which I don't know which theft you're speaking of, but both of them are. I can think of two at the moment, but unfortunately, there has been an increase in some activity, yes. There was a non-reported theft yesterday that I took that just nothing of value that you don't really care about, so.
I did speak to one of the owners of the business, and they praised your help for their situation that they were in. They commended everything that you did. So, thank you.
Appreciate that.
Mike, is Tyler here to answer on the non-emergency phone number and the curfew hours, or
Yeah, I mean, there's part of that, I
not
think
answer, but?
mainly it's, the concern, and I think we should probably, address those. The curfew hours, I know from earlier discussions that Tyler, representing, is certainly in favor of, moving it from 1 back to midnight, just to be somewhat consistent, and we can certainly put that on the next month, but we didn't get a chance to discuss it, so is this your understanding?
You know, and I go back and forth with changing the curfew for, I guess, a couple different reasons. You know, Jerry and I, we were having some issues with youngins around town, and that's kind of the reason why this was brought up in the first place. It's kind of an isolated month. I don't know what was going on, but we were having extreme problems that month with the kids, so haven't had any issues since. Personally, you know, I'd like to see it age divided, but at the same time, that's opening up a can of worms that is just not feasible. Kids lie, how am I supposed to prove how old they are? That kind of thing. And like I said, you know, I go back and forth with it. It's, you know, ultimately your guys' call. So I will state that, you know, once you're 16 and you're on a POP driver's permit, the state says no more driving after midnight. Technically, with the way our ordinance reads, they can go park their car at midnight and go horse around for another hour. You know, and is that bad? I don't know. Honestly, the problem is we were having an age group about 10 to 15 was our main problem. Really, it wasn't the, you know, 16 to 18-year-old kids that weren't causing any trouble. Some of them, you know, I think a lot of it was that we, you know, made a lot of curfew contacts and told them, think it was just an awareness problem. You know, they didn't know what the curfew was. Some didn't even know there was such a thing. That kind of thing, so. Like I said, ultimately, you know, it's your decision. I go back and forth whether it needs changed or not.
And administratively, we recommend moving it from 1 to midnight. It's your call to do whatever you want, but from our offices, we just as soon see consistency and keep it at midnight. And if that's what the pop is right now, I mean, there's no sense of just having that. We'd recommend a change of the ordinance.
And it's 10 o'clock on weekdays, right?
11.
11 on the weekdays, midnight on weekends.
Friday.
11 PM Sunday through Thursday, and then Friday and Saturday, 1
1
AM
a.m.
right now. And any of it can be changed, it's just a matter of who do you want to restrict and how much chasing are you gonna expect out of the police department?
Does it still say in the like state, if they have a late game or something, like with the travel times? As
I
long as they're
believe
going
there's
straight home,
something in there
like
about
saying
an
they're
hour.
Sure is.
Going straight home from,
It allows for time to return home from an activity.
Right. That's what I was thinking.
Although very few activities run you past 11 or 1. but
I'm just
If you
saying,
had a dance or something, it's
Yeah.
not impossible.
What about the non-emergency phone number?
Okay, gonna move on to that?
Yeah.
The non-emergency phone number is simply a way to, probably should have been done when we moved over to the new place and there was a separation. They had dispatch at the time, dispatch is gone, we were fielding the phone calls during the day. That was the common practice. Really, just to take care of it, make it easy, is the technology's there just to take all of the phone calls that come in for the police and give it straight to them, whomever is on duty at the time, to their cell phones. The reason we ask for this is there's just information that does not need to be coming through the administrative office. We're not dispatch, and sometimes we get involved and get in the middle of things we just really don't need to be a part of.
So is this just a system that?
Well,
will
that's my
transfer to
question
each
on
one of
this,
their-
is are you talking about paying for a whole separate line through the phone company?
There would be a line.
Okay, who's watching that phone? What happens when we're not in the office?
Courtney can explain that a
It
little
will
bit
forward
better.
it right to your cell phone.
But then you'd have it kicked to long distance and it would dial their cell phone.
No, you dial that number and it forwards it to that phone.
Well,
Straightforward, no voice message?
somebody's gonna pay for the long distance.
Not a long distance. We actually ran through a trial, what we had, it didn't want it to be, but we had our system go down with water. And so all the phone calls were routed through Courtney's phone at the time. So she took those, so it would be the same technology, no long distance. It's certainly just another, it would be a separate line, but it would be kicking over like an automated
How
system.
can it
to
be
the-
no long distance if it's calling a cell phone number?
You can put
It's
any number,
always long distance
put
if
any
it calls a
any
cell
number
phone
in there
number.
for a forwarding number.
Yeah, you can forward,
Mhm.
yeah.
Well, of course
If they
you
call
can
this
forward.
number,
But
then
there's no
it's,
long, but there's no long distance call, charges.
Cause they're calling a
We've
local
already
number.
got that.
Works on
so.
the weekend.
well, I do like our current system in place as far as the automated system goes. It's always nice to kind of have a little bit more information before speaking to a person, instead of them just going, let's just say they're irate, you know, and have a hard time understanding them, something like that. And that's why dispatch handles calls, they're recorded phone calls, they're, you know, I'm talking about peers, as far as that goes. I guess, I don't know if I really see the necessity in this, is what I'm kind of getting at. I obviously don't work during the day. I don't know how many calls come in for the police during the day. You know, I don't know if that's, you know, becoming a burdensome type thing for you guys or what, but,
Well, when they call in at 10 and ask to talk to a cop and nobody calls them back and they call back at noon, it's kind of hard for the girls to.
well,
explain
see,
why
and
the
that,
cops have-
and there's
Why
the
didn't
problem.
somebody
If,
call them back?
if an officer is outside of the
It's not our
office,
responsibility to
Well, how do you
speak for the
forward it
officers.
on? To the police?
To them.
okay, but it gets forwarded to our cell phones, or our
Work phone.
work phones left on an answering machine,
Or in person, either.
okay?
And so you're.
I will state that I've had some problems with, sometimes I don't get into the office till later, I'm out doing something, you know, get called here, get called there. Take an EPC down to Norfolk, you're talking 2.5 hours. Get back to the office, oh, my light's on. You know, it's just kind of one of those like, ooh,
what am I supposed to do about that? They're told, okay, I'll transfer you over to that officer's machine. They leave a message. I'm busy. I never get told that there's someone left a message. I never knew about it till I walk into the office and look.
So then
If we went to a completely automated, thing, like they leave a message, gets emailed to our phone, okay. That's not too bad, because then boom, we get notifications. So far, it's been reliable. We were having some issues a week or so ago about them just not coming in. 7:30, 8:30 at night, call came in, I didn't get it till the next morning.
So your city office right now calls the local Plainview Police Department number?
Whomever is on duty, they will
They
call
call the cell phone.
both, either or. I mean, it depends on, we locate and run down the officer on duty and put that phone call into their hands and to deal with as they are supposed to.
And then nothing happens and they call you back. That's your
Frequently.
problem?
Frequently.
Or they say, I need an officer, is an emergency, well, no, but I need him right now. Well, that's an emergency, call 911.
That's during the daytime hours. What happens at night after 5 o'clock?
It's automated
Automated.
system.
All automated.
It's all.
So if you called the city administration office,
You call right now, it's an automated answering machine.
And if you hit 2 for police and leave a message, it goes straight to my cell phone. Well, it goes to all 3 of our cell phones.
So you just wanna do that
In the day.
24/7?
Yep, with a separate number instead of my phone number, the city office.
I think,
I would prefer that over a call forwarding type system. They call this police number and it goes straight to our cell phone as a ringing phone.
That's the intent of the automated system. And so you understand, you're on the same page. I'm not
Okay,
denying
yeah,
that. just
I
saying
mean, let it go to the
technology
system we
and
already
allow the
have
officer on duty.
versus going straight and I go, who is this?
Yeah, you should still get an email.
Yeah, I get an email and then normally people will say, this is my name, here's where I live. Obviously, then I have a number to call back.
Exactly.
And I get a brief description of what's going on before I go blind into a situation.
does that automatically transfer then for the shifts? So like
All 3 of us get it all the
6
time.
AM, okay, so, okay.
There has to be some manual, at least, transfer of live to automated, back and forth to whomever is on call, just like we have an automated system for our workers on call, and it's been a very reliable system. To be honest, if the workers don't receive it, Raleigh, I, and several receive whatever the other issue may be. Police is only a non-emergency. If it's an emergency, it says right on the message, hang up and dial 911 and let dispatch handle it. Non-emergencies is all we're concerned about. And that's basically trying to look at the situations where the administrative staff can certainly take the phone call, but if it happens to be an individual who is someone that the person on duty does not care to take care of, it comes back because they answered the live person and it comes back to us. Why wasn't the police, why didn't they come? Why didn't they do this?
So if it's automated, nobody will ever know that.
I believe pretty much everyone in the community knows that it's automated already after 5. Anyone that uses police services, and I should state.
Send it all through Pierce County.
which would be the other option, but I don't wanna. I think that we have some responsibility locally to try to.
We have the system.
The system's there.
So basically, all we would need to do is, instead of our system calling 4928, just have, I guess, a separate number that automatically gets emailed to our phone, like the current system after 5 p.m.
You're spot on.
We'll just have it, you call
That-
the hospital and they
it's
don't
fine.
answer no more, it says press 1 to talk to the nurse or whatever, and 2 to just have it all 24/7 then. Press 2 to talk to coordinator or whatever.
No, I don't want that in my, I don't want that in the main office, no.
So you'd be okay with that setup then? I mean, to me, it sounds like.
I would prefer that very much so over just getting random phone calls.
Would that be better for you guys, because you'd have a better record?
Well,
of
and
everything?
it would be a lot less, I mean, let's be honest, it'd be a lot less work.
Mhm.
Because how would you set the call for, someone would have to set the call forwarding to the next person on shift. If you have it go straight to our email, all three of us are getting them all the time.
That is correct.
So is this thing gonna pick up a standard 911 message? If this is an emergency, press 1. If you just
And if
wanna
this is
speak
an
to a local
emergency, hang
officer,
up.
press 2.
Hang up and down.
Hang up and down.
It's probably gonna be a hang up and dial, the way the system is right
Or
now.
whatever. If
Yeah.
this is an emergency.
Yes,
Hang up and dial 911.
correct.
If not, leave your message here.
Yep.
Yep.
Sounds good to me.
It's all right with you?
If we aren't getting some response where we should be, maybe I'll take care of that.
Doomer just answered me. If you forward a call, there is long distance. If you email, there is no long distance.
And that may be automated, and that's what we have in place on the other one. We forwarded the call on Courtney's and certainly didn't have.
Actually, that was the last ditch effort.
Well, they're all forwarded long distance then from what you're saying, because that's how we get them on the weekend and nighttime. And
Well, is it an email or is it
I
a
get
long
both.
distance phone call?
We get a message and an email.
If there's a forwarded call to a cell phone, they're gonna charge you long distance.
We just bring it to your attention, and you certainly, this is not a case where you can certainly say go forward and try it and do it.
And you
It's
run
not-
here, so you get emailed all the time?
Yep.
Over the cell or whatever?
Mhm. Yep.
Any customer any customer that calls in to the
It
city
works,
office.
I have a special app on my phone
Plainview
that
telco just forward to email.
anytime I get an email, it sets off a noisy alarm. And that's simply for waking me up. If it's 3 o'clock in the morning, that way I wake up and I hear it.
Sure.
Normally, when it's 3 o'clock in the morning, people call 911. There has been times in the past where they leave it on the non-emergency, so.
A typical phone call, email message, just so you understand, in a very typical, a Friday night at 3 a.m. in the morning, a customer, electrical customer realizes they didn't pay their payment on Friday, and while they were out possibly drinking late at night, decide to leave a message and say, I'll be in first thing Monday. That is not untypical. So it goes to the email, doesn't wake us up, but it goes to the email so that when we wake up, we see there was what time of day, when they called, and we listen to the message. The message will be, this is so-and-so, I'll be in Monday. I see it, the girls see it in the office. Courtney, do you see it on your phone?
I do.
And Raleigh, we see in about 5 different spots to make sure it's taken care of first chance we get.
Well, maybe we ought to try it.
I was
and see
gonna
how
say,
it
let's
works.
try that for 30 to
Fine.
90 days, and if there needs to be a change, then
See if it,
readdress it.
Really, the only change is daytime hours. I mean, otherwise, we actually use that current system currently, so. Like I said, the only change would be, Monday through Friday, day shift.
I mean, it's not an issue if someone still calls, we can still send it over to the office if we're there, but I'd
If somebody
rather.
called 4928.
Yeah, we can say, oh, sorry, you can call it, you can call this number, we can still patch it over as something.
But personally, I'd rather you say, call this number
Yeah.
instead. That way, everything,
It's always the interpretation.
everything gets,
Takes it out of their hands and puts it in the
Exactly.
caller's hands. If they don't wanna call it that other number, it didn't happen then, because they know nothing about what was going on.
and like I said, with our current system, we can, it's time of day, you see cell phone number, you pop up, right there's a voicemail, it's right there in your email.
There's a lot of
I would say we try it for 6 months or whatever and see how it goes and see if it works. And
I don't know what kind of numbers they have available, something probably somewhat close to 4928, somewhat, obviously, but,
Was this
oh no,
discussion?
can you hang up and call 49229 or whatever?
666.
That's
That
111.
curfew.
Try it.
We need to get this on the agenda.
This need to be an agenda item, just change that.
And we can certainly do it anyway, as an administrative thing, we just like to run it by you and make sure that you understand what we're doing before we do it. If it's just a trial, we're just gonna try it and you're aware of it.
Let's try it for how long you want to try it, and if we, 6 months, 3 months?
This will be through Plainview Telco then.
Let's do 3 months, I'll guess through the end of the year,
Yeah.
and then if we need to do
Do
something.
a trial basis on 3 months and come back and report how it's working.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Let's back up to the other one then. Are we going to change that?
That's your call, it needs to be an ordinance change, it'll go to Bruce, but my recommendation is to consistency, don't change the language, what you have in place, except for 1 o'clock back to midnight, leave everything else alone, and just bring it back in November.
Okay.
So do we want to change it to 12?
That's,
I see, if that's the recommendation of you and the officers.
Tyler's on the boat. but-
Like I said, I'm kind of back and forth with it, it was a,
Friday, Saturday,
It's
midnight.
about 18 years old, Friday, Saturday, midnight.
The kids in the back row were like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
cutting down playtime, guys.
Better get home.
One other quick thing, what do you know about the speed signs, which will be a year in November? Nothing has happened.
to be honest, Mike, the police, Tyler's not involved, the police ordered this, I'm cleaning it up, I talked with Evoli today, and they're gonna do an exchange, and they're okay, they're gonna take it on the dollar value we spent, and they're doing an exchange to get the 14-inch regulation size, and they were okay with it.
So when
Straight
will
across,
we-
we're not losing any money on this deal.
No, we may
No.
have to pay some more because it's a different sign that goes from 13 to 14, but it would be just in addition. We'll give the money value, full value on the $2,500 signs that we have.
And when will those supposedly be in, or?
Since Raleigh and I are taking
2018,
over,
2019.
no, we'll,
It's already been a year.
You hear what it said?
2019, but.
What's a few more months?
What's a
It's
few
only
more-
been a year.
how about, it doesn't sound, they were pretty good about the first time around. Since we're gonna go ahead administratively take care of this, we'll have it in, we'll try to get it in by 2018. That gives us the fall to get it sent, shipped back, get the permit approved.
Okay.
That they will approve, because they will not approve a 13-inch sign.
Is that fine?
Yes. Good.
All right.
I have a couple things. So who is backup when all 3 of you guys are gone to the
County.
conference? The county is.
County takes calls.
Okay.
Well, county takes the calls, obviously county and Nebraska State Patrol have jurisdiction over the city limits also.
Okay. And then, I don't know if you know the answer to this or if we have to bring it back. The new dog ordinance that we implemented, how many of those people have came in and paid the $100 fees? 3?
If I told you 1,500 people came in, I would be lying, so yeah, 3.
3 out of the 7.
I don't have every other dog in town licensed, so I have non-dog breeds that are.
Have my neighbors.
I have no idea. I don't know.
So what
Honestly, I
happens?
couldn't tell you. Kind of an administrative thing, in my
Okay.
opinion.
I don't go through that list on a.
So if I
regular-
called tomorrow, they'd be able to tell me then?
Mhm.
Okay, I will do that. And they provided the insurance, proof of insurance? Perfect. Okay.
I am one of the 3.
Anybody else got anything?
I'd like to see that ticket.
Didn't give him a break, did you?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope, full price. Full price. I tried. Didn't happen. No, that's fine. One last thing I do want to ask about as far as going ahead, going on the new patrol vehicle. We okay to,
In the budget.
Yeah, somehow this was brought.
It was
to
asked of
attention
me
of
to
Tyler,
ask
which
this, so-
I really don't know why, but for Tyler's sake, because he needs to know as an officer, it was approved in the budget and told to go ahead and proceed to look like you did the last time, yeah,
Okay.
because it has been put through. So
Yeah, 'cause last one, was what, 5-6 months it took for it
it
to.
was far.
I know right
longer.
now Corey down at Courtesy is trying to find, a new 17 model, cause obviously 18s are out right now, to try and, get a better deal on
I thought they
a
were
new
looking
old
at, I thought they
one.
were looking at a 1988 Blazer.
Yeah. I had a Blazer. I had an 84.
David Hasselhoff.
What about your bulletproof vests? Have those been ordered?
We have not gotten over to Sioux City to get
Oh, okay.
refitted for them.
Okay,
That is
That's all
something
that
Jerry
check
and
out.
I wants to
okay,
line up.
okay. We just want to keep you guys safe.
Appreciate that.
Anybody else?
Nice to see somebody here in a uniform.
Appreciate that.
Thanks.
If
Tyler.
that's everything for me?
Yes.
Yes,
All right.
thank you for
All
your
right.
time.
Thank you, guys.
Raleigh? Get the checkbook out.
That's later. We're just gonna report now.
Oh, that's later?
Yeah, we'll do that all over.
All right.
I'll get up here twice. We'll keep her going.
Okay, I don't have Raleigh's report.
Yeah, you
No,
would.
I don't.
No, did you get a bad packet?
You can have mine.
I don't have a manor report.
Yeah.
No, I didn't have a manor report, your
See
report
how
or my
nicely
report.
tabbed
That's why I was like,
mine
this is.
are? I should do that for you
I didn't
first.
have any extras.
Sally, efficiency.
Thank you. I'll speed read.
That's okay, I can, I have a couple pages to spare. I'll slide it around like this.
Look
You
good,
guys,
look good now?
see, you got down sweep the streets, I thought the sweeper was drove.
No,
Maybe they used to, you got the boys and some brooms,
the wind blew.
old school.
Their names are,
I think Bo Johnson doing that.
No, it's operational and then repairable.
Operational.
We're milking it along.
Maybe it wouldn't hurt maybe to get that out for the fall and get some, one of those leaves out of the curb.
After tomorrow night, or tonight when it freezes. Cause I gotta do, this week and early next week, I gotta put some cover on our C&D site. We had a inspection today. He said it was covered up, so I gotta get that done before street sweeping, but that's my goal for next week.
The light out in front of Barb Frederick's shop, the street light,
that's that,
Who?
you know,
and.
Oh, yeah, I'll go check on that tonight.
And the one in front of the library, the older style, is that ours or is that state?
Is it on the
that's
highway?
ours.
Is that ours? Okay. That one's out as well, Ronnie.
Up on top, just one bulb.
No, the old,
The old
tall,
style.
the tall one.
The tall
Oh,
one.
they're, actually, sorry, that is the state's, but we have an agreement with the state to do the replacement of the bulbs, so we will take.
Does that count on 20 also?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So I reckon I need to go out on the night and go check.
I think Tyler's turned them in before, haven't you?
Yeah.
I stopped doing that.
You stopped doing it?
Mhm.
Everything's winterized.
Everything except the cloud all. I have to wait till the 27th of October.
I'm not really sure why, something's going on, maybe a clown festival or something.
Oh, I lied. The little ball fields aren't done because they still got soccer games or something.
When's our last football game?
Next Thursday.
Next week?
Yes.
Might not
I don't think they do.
Absolutely, Tom.
I don't think there's that many PowerPoints available either.
It's 25 right now.
Huh?
It's
How
25th
has
right
the
now.
traffic been along the school, between the school and the library? Have there been any complaints,
Not that I've heard.
were we put in the walking path for the,
Other than the
Children.
one picture I seen, we had kids walking on the wrong side of the street, not in the zone, I haven't heard anything else.
That's,
Their kids go walking the street wherever they
Yep.
feel like.
What about
it.
that sign fixed it? Teachers, it's just pedestrian walkway now.
Yep, it's a,
there was kids walking the wrong way yesterday when I went home.
yeah, they walk over.
What are you gonna do?
They go cross yards and,
I
Just
did
pull
try
behind
to
them and
use
honk.
social
Yeah.
media to inform people to have
That
their
was your
children
answer?
learn
You wanna answer this one?
walking the correct way. And I immediately got hit with about 5 or 6 different people who complained about everything from sewer to electricity and everything not related to the walkway, so I took it down.
is this something that is educated though to the teachers and like the principals, superintendent, that it's
hope so.
doing in the classroom for your
I
safety?
think that the folks at either end could tell the kids how that's supposed to work from the school or the library.
Mhm.
I mean,
Okay.
so,
No, I was just wondering,
Mhm.
I'm not
I hadn't
around
heard
during
any,
the daytime,
Has
so.
anybody observed it, or do people observe the no driving on that portion of the street, do we think?
I've never seen anybody driving the yellow. I've seen people walking it.
I've never seen anybody
Drive.
driving or parking or anything in there,
That's great.
and I live right there.
I do. There ain't any kids in there, I'm driving that part of the street.
Oh, I
It
stay
was
there
after
out
a
of.
ball game.
Oh,
There was nobody on the street, it was 8:30 at night.
Oh,
Yeah.
Tyler?
I'm gonna write you up.
you hear that, Tyler? Sure.
Would it be possible to, you come to the end and then just curve it back to the curb?
Which end, right up?
The library end?
East end, why wouldn't we just
Sorry,
take it
curb.
on, make a little yellow right to that, those
Walk stones?
walk stones?
Because that's not a crosswalk. You don't have an adequate sidewalk across the way.
they have, I understand what you're saying, that
Mhm.
you have the inadequate walking stones.
Yeah, but I mean, to me, it kinda defeats the purpose, or you got this for them to walk in, because we're trying to get them safe to the library or whatever, and then we curve it right back into the curved walls. Why I just wouldn't go on over
I
that.
don't
Just
disagree.
Suggestion.
That would help people understand what it's for. Other than that, I have nothing.
Anybody else? Raleigh? For this go around?
Thank you.
Thanks, Raleigh. Mike, you wanna go now?
I can go later, just a couple of, just a minor things, just a reminder that at the end of this month, I will be heading abroad, so that you're aware, as a council. We'll talk about other things later, but I'll be going over to Rome on the bucket list of my wife. So,
Whatever calls we have, we'll just have them.
Fordham to Rome, it's a
We'll
long
have them
distance.
forwarded to Tyler.
We're not heading in long
distance. No, wait, I'll wait till later.
Okay.
Well, yeah, before you do that, we still have the items, not my items, but I know that Mike wanted to talk about the discussion action on,
Yeah.
and it isn't really as much action, but I think that there needs to be an explanation of what the cemetery
Sorry.
board
It's okay.
wants to
I needed to
do
stretch my legs.
with the cemetery,
Yeah.
and I think Mike, they're not here, right?
No, I guess not.
So Mike would speak on their behalf.
The cemetery, Pleasant View Cemetery, I'm the president of it, and Judy Bungie has been getting donations for the, Bruce can help me out here if I mess up, but for the cemetery. Well, we're trying to form a 501c. Well, to form a 501c, we have to know exactly what kind of property we own or whatever. Well, come to find out, Bruce has worked on the 501c for that and dug quite deeply down in Pierce County, and it's always been said that it's the Catholic cemetery since the Catholic Church is there, but on the recording of it, it says that it's the city cemetery, but come to find out, it actually is Pleasant View Cemetery, correct, Bruce?
Memorial Park, I thought.
That's what the deed says.
Reimbursement.
So, I guess what we're coming to ask is that we don't run on a lot of funds at Pleasant View Cemetery, and if we had to take that over, we'd probably have to go through the county or something to get up a cemetery board. The city has taken care of it for as long as I've known, forever, and I guess that's what we're asking. I don't remember, Bruce, if we talked about deeding it to the city, so it actually would be the city cemetery if we were gonna leave it.
Well, it'd be my thought the title needs to be cleaned up.
We need to clean it up to form our 501c.
Amazingly enough, if you look on the assessor's website, they show that it's owned by the Catholic Church.
Yeah, it's a big mess.
Which is, I brought them a legal, I got extra.
And well, if you've got the assessor's print, I mean, both the church building and hall and the 4 acres, the assessor has it on his Catholic Church, and we called them and said, why are you doing that? And they said, well, it's right there by the church. and nobody pays tax on it anyway, so that's just what we've always done.
Exactly.
But there is no deed that says the church owns it. The deed was 1898 or something, was Plainview Cemetery. And I suggested to them, we set up this new nonprofit to really formalize the cemetery association. Well, we have to put all the property owned into the new corporation. Well, if this is not intended to be owned, we don't want to keep it there. And it seemed like it would make sense if we just got the title over to the city and continue to take care of it. It's still nonprofit in the city's hands. There's no tax. Nothing else would change. It would make the authority over who's in charge a little more clear. It's inappropriate to make the deed and just give it to the city. You can't do that without consent of the city. That's the whole point of the conversation.
So that's why we're bringing it to the city, is to create our 501c, we have to change things or something.
From, the viewpoint of the city, and I did talk to, and it certainly doesn't matter, we've been taking care of it, like I said, Mike says, as long as he can remember, and it's never been anything different. I've always known it was the Catholic Church, even though I've had several Catholic members come up to me and almost scream at me and say, no, it belongs to the city, and I can prove it. Well, I tell them, no, you can't. And I never heard from them again after that, but basically it's always been the Catholic Church according to the county records. We just always have taken care of it. So in a sense, if you ask a city administrator or an administrative staff anywhere else that this happens, and they ask a city, do you want a cemetery? Not only is the answer no, but hell no. It's the last thing that any city wants to take care of. But we're already doing it. So I don't have an issue in this case with the cemetery formalizing that. I also know what Raleigh told me the first time I told him about it too, but if we're gonna do it, let's get it formalized so we can take care of the cemetery association, whatever Bruce needs to do.
And I think the Cemetery Association has agreed too that they would continue to supervise the interior ownership of the lots and any use or sale of the lots. They've essentially used it, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the last 50 years for county burials.
Yeah.
If somebody has been abandoned by family and the county's gonna have to take care of them, they find a space out there. But that's the only use it's had. But they have the maps and they have the plat. In case you wonder, when the thing was deeded to the city in 1886, 1888, they had an engineer come and plat it. And all the lots are 19 by 19 with 4 and 10-foot alleys between them, and wooden stakes at each corner, which I suspect are hard to find today,
Very.
Petrified now.
140 years later.
But we still have, the cemetery association has all the plats and who's buried where, I mean, as far back as they can go and stuff, cause very rare, as Bruce said, there's maybe been one or two funerals in during the last,
We've had
10
in 10
years,
years,
maybe.
like 3 vagrants, a couple of locals, a couple privates, and no more than 5 at the most, 5 or 6. And they were counties.
so we're bringing it to the city father.
So I
to see what
think
they
you're
wanna
looking for
do.
something like a motion to accept the deed subject to the association continuing to manage the grave sites.
That would be perfect.
I mean, something like that for a record and a motion would be well done. And then we could just go forward with the deed once we get the nonprofit rolling. Everything else will go into the new corporation, and this will go out to the city.
But I-
Question that I have about the name, you got Pleasant View, I was always, that's north, and this one is Memorial Park, because it even, you
Well,
have a sign that said Memorial
The
Park.
deed,
The deed.
the deed, yeah, you're mistaken, Mike, from not having a copy in front of you, but the deed back in 1886, handwritten, they didn't have typewriters then, is to the trustees of the Plainview Cemetery Association. And the association's been there ever since. For years, they've called the one up north Pleasant View, and that's kind of what sticks in the mind.
Yeah.
But the original was, and it wasn't platted, the city wasn't even there at the time. The lots were platted downtown, but they hadn't been platted out that far. So the deed was 4 acres in the square form in the southeast quarter of the 40. That's, I mean, the 40 is described completely, but that's all it is, 4 acres in square form in the corner. And it's been that way ever since, it's never been changed. Well, if you could do that motion to accept the deed subject to the Cemetery Association maintaining management, I don't think that would make sense.
I will make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for, say that again, Bruce. You got it, Courtney?
Motion for the city to assume the deed, under the understanding the association will be in charge of plats, et cetera, of the
Okay.
cemetery.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Julie?
Aye.
Tom? Mike?
Okay, I vote aye.
You better, yeah, no, you should.
You know, you don't have any personal comments.
Right. Aye. All right, Susan,
Once you
now we're ready
drive
for
down the highway, you can decide.
Alright. On the LB 840 committee, I am still working with Josh Schmitz on the True Value Store. Last month, we directed him to go to the Center for Rural Affairs and the REAP program. And so he submitted an application to them in early September. As part of their approval process, their loan department holds 2 to 3 internal meetings to review each application. And we found out last week that Josh's application cleared the first round. And we found out today that REAP is going to be here tomorrow to walk through the building, and they will hold one more meeting, and they believe that that'll be it. They'll approve his application. We also directed him to go to the Maine Business Development Center. They use district economic funds and help businesses apply for SBA loans, and those have to be underwritten by a bank. So Josh is currently working with Brian Eichler at Madison County Bank to underwrite the rest of his loan. And those loans are 85% guaranteed by the government, so they take about 2 to 3 months to finalize. So Josh should be ready to come in front of the LB 840 committee with his application. At the earliest, it would be November, but we're probably looking at December. And then the last bit of good news we got about that was today. I had asked Dennis Johnson to work on something for me. Josh wanted to acquire Walt and Marge Frederick's building, which is next door to the True Value Store. I think it's Barb's. He wanted to purchase that, and there's an empty lot in between, a 20 by 100 lot, and he wanted to tear that building down and build on to the true value to expand the store. He had put in an offer, and we found out today that that was accepted. So, Bruce, if you would be willing to write the option, Dennis
Okay,
Johnson
well,
has the
let me know
info.
details.
So they are willing to hold that option until February 1st, which gives us time to get all of this financing together. And we are going to hope and pray that we have a new hardware store for Christmas. Mary's Restaurant, as you know, LB 840 approved Scott Bourne's application for his business, and you guys had a special meeting and approved that as well. I spoke with Scott today. He is currently planning to be open by the end of October or the first part of November. The delay is he's currently waiting for the flooring around the dishwasher in the kitchen to be fixed. The contractor to do that isn't available until next week. And then once that flooring gets done, the health inspector can come in. Once he gets that approval, then they can move forward. One snag we're running into is the liquor license. He needs a business plan. I think you might have it, Michael.
Well, I told him if he needs a rudimentary or just some simple, that it's not hard to put together. The liquor, they're not really
Right.
too,
So he
they don't
needs,
need a 20-page or something.
right. So he needed a little bit of help with that, and then we'll probably have to have a special meeting. You guys will to get that liquor license expedited, I believe. What else? He's hiring people right now, and this weekend he's training. John Hazy is working on all the new signage for Mary's. The signs will replace the ones located around town. And the one along Highway 13, I guess, has been missing for a while, but somehow they found it and it'll be going back up. So, I don't
I heard it was in his garage.
It was.
UNL ECAP program. Charlotte Najaris from the UNL Extension Office attended the September 18th LB 840 meeting to brief the committee on the ECAP program and how to get it started here in Plainview. And I gave you those packets tonight. ECAP is part of the Community Vitality Initiative that helps communities identify their needs and goals while supporting innovation and entrepreneurship. The LB 840 board approved this partnership with UNL, and we will serve as the steering committee for this project. We are seeking an additional 1 to 2 city council members to also serve on the steering committee. So if you're interested in helping this, let me know. This steering committee is going to be a short-term 4 to 6 month commitment. It begins next month. Initially with a conference call with Charlotte to kind of get everyone briefed on what we need to do and put together a community survey so we can tailor-make that survey to what we want it to be. So we'll have a couple meetings on that. The survey should hopefully hit the community by January, be out there for 6 weeks. All the information will come back to the university. They will compile all of our results, and then they come in here and start holding a series of community conversations. There'll be one conversation every week for a month. And that kind of completes that process, and then by then we'll have all this new information about our town, and we can move forward. LB 840 committee also, they decided to do something with $5,000 business grants. They wanted to offer those to expand and improve area businesses, so current business owners could apply for that. We have received 2 applications in the last month for that program, but the LB 840 committee is waiting until they meet again October 16th to finalize the guidelines and the parameters for that program. And lastly, the park board. On September 29th, I submitted the Nebraska Game and Parks Lane and Water Conservation Grant. The winning playground concept was option B from BCI Burke. We will find out if we're awarded a 50% match grant in January 2018. On September 30th, I submitted an additional $25,000 grant for park equipment to the Cooper Foundation. We should find out about that one in December. I'm also working on 2 $30,000 grants through the Dotery and Hewitt Foundations for this project. My plan is to have both of those completed by October 15th, and I will let you know about the award letters when we get them. Any questions?
Thank you for all your time and efforts on these.
Thank you, Susan.
Really appreciate it. Is there any way that you could maybe summarize this and include it in our meeting packet?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I give one to Darren and Courtney, but yeah, I can give you this one.
Oh, that way I'm not like,
Which one?
just kind of what she's going through.
You can remember.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
I'll have one for you guys in the future.
Thanks so much, Suzanne.
Yep.
Thanks, Susan.
Thanks, Susan.
Or Susan, sorry.
Okay, discussion action, nuisance property update, Roger Stelling.
the fact that I haven't got done what I thought I was gonna get done in 60 days, but customers come first.
Understandable.
That's basically all I got to say. I still plan on getting them cars cleaned up. I told you I was gonna get cleaned up. Me and the county ain't got together quite yet, so get them loaded.
I'd like to say I drove by tonight before I came here, and it's very nicely mowed up and everything, so,
But I've kept it mowed all year, so.
yeah,
But
I can appreciate.
More.
you wanna buy it back?
Is it a real mower? Is that your John Deere?
No,
So,
Oh, you did.
it is. Old Roger, he could have, I had a bunch of money in it, wasn't running, I was tired of it.
anything else?
I'm satisfied.
Thank you, Roger.
Okay.
Thank you, Roger. Mayor Board appointments, Housing Board, both of these are good to go?
Yes, as long as you accept them as your recommendation, and both Jody Johnson and Tyler saying we were interested. I put out a small feeler, Tyler got a hold of that one. I saw Jody in person, she's a realtor, and I thought she'd be a good addition. I'd like to take the housing board and somewhat separate down before we overwhelm Susan on some of the things that she is doing and have a housing board become more active. And Jody would help do that quite a bit more so we can get some housing going through LB 840 and kind of let her do her thing, let them do their thing, and go on.
Okay. At this time, I'd like to nominate Jody Johnson and Tyler Saney to the Housing Board with council approval.
I will make that motion to accept your approval of Jody Johnson and Tyler Senior.
I'll say, go ahead.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and second for Housing Board appointments, Jody Johnson and Tyler Saney. Julie?
Aye.
Tom? Mike?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
I have contacted someone about the vacant manor board position. He's gonna let me know in a few days. If he's interested, if he wants to do it.
I believe the last conversation I had with Julene too, she believed she'd be okay for this month to have a quorum with the existing members she has. So if you don't get it done until the November meeting, I think you're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Do you wanna wait on the Keno grants, Mike, till everybody's
I
here?
do
Or
accept
you wanna
I
make
have a
it-
text message from Paula that they're really running behind in Randolph, and I'm sure that is where Darren is as well. So,
Yeah,
because he goes to all the games.
The only discussion on the Keno grants, and I'll go ahead and make it too, because it has to be somewhat of a clarification on what the Keno grants were even designed to do. But with that in mind, we got 4 young children here that we dragged off the streets so they wouldn't go and
Past
get off.
curfew.
That's perfect.
I know I got the 4 worst candidates I could possibly get to represent the bowling club, but if you 4 would like to come forward, would you want to get that one taken care of?
Yep.
So we can get them
Yep.
home?
Yep.
Logan, if you want me to
Get 'em
swear, all
curfew.
4 of you can
Before
come
curfew.
forward.
Get them home.
Did you get your community service taken care of for violating curfew? Is that you guys?
It wasn't me.
Might be Troy. Lily, don't answer. Just don't answer. I'm giving you credit. Don't answer, and it was you. You have it in front of you, and I'll explain how this works because there's a question on this every year. Not on the license, but on what is the bowling club. The bowling club is a club that is actually got its own account and works through D&K, but what we've done is to try to take myself or even Darren or Dave and Kim out of the equation. We let kids come up and explain to you what what it means to them. It's a license fee to continue each year in the bowling, and it's where we spend literally thousands of dollars out of our own pockets and to ensure that we do have a bowling team. They've been quite successful, but I think more importantly for you to see why there isn't the same face, a president or a vice president. Every year, the parents are the club member executive, kind of like your sports boosters as they get older. So they change every year. So, did you write something up, Logan?
Oh, this is just the itinerary.
I was gonna be really impressed.
Looking at what we got.
I was just in shock.
Main reason I asked you guys to come up and I see I got the 4 best to represent. what bowling means to you, and basically, what you think of the program.
Bowling, I've been bowling for all my life, you know, same with my brothers and sisters, and it's just been fun and been keeping me out of trouble, giving me something to do every night, practice on it.
He's honest. Yeah, that's a curfew thing again.
And, you know, been able to meet a lot of people, whether it be from Ravenna or McCool Junction like we bowled last week.
Did you know where Ravenna or McCool Junction was before you met them?
No, honestly, I didn't, and then made some good friends down in Ravenna, Ethan being one of them. I don't know his last name, but it's pretty cool. But anyways, it's just been fun, keeping me off the streets, and
I got your 4 violators here, Tyler. I'm glad you came back in. You got your cuffs ready. If they don't get this fund from the council and that, you can take them to jail.
No, myself, I can speak for myself, but I've had fun with these kids throughout the years. Brady being one of them, and Troy. It's just been fun for me to say something like.
I just don't want you to just tell them who you are. We can go ahead and move on and get it, taken care of. But just tell them, your names.
I'm Logan Campbell.
Never mind, Troy. Scott Brady. No, Troy. I'm just kidding.
I'll just walk out the door.
Your name.
I'm getting there. Troy, and I like to have fun with my friends, bowling. Just give me something to do, occupied time.
I don't have much to say. It's different from the rest of them. It's fun. You learn new things, have fun with your friends, and keeps you from doing stupid things.
Who are you?
I am Brady Shot.
I have nothing to say, but...
Who are you?
Oh, I'm Lily.
You can go ahead and stand up now. Lily's one of our young girl bowlers, and that has done very well. And of course, these 3 are all 3 varsity bowlers, and it just gives an opportunity. They're not in other sports. This gives you something in mind. This is what they do, and it really is a way to continue to give other kids opportunities to do things like bowling that aren't in football and volleyball and things like that. So that's about the gist of it.
I think for the past several years, we've always went ahead and granted this request, which I think is a very worthy project, and you guys, over the years, have done quite well representing Plainview at state bowling and other events, so I would recommend that we grant the request for $850 for the bowling.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approving the Keno application for the Plainview Bowling Club in the amount of $850. Julie?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Mike?
All right,
Brian?
Aye.
continue to stay out of trouble.
Have fun, guys.
Thanks, you guys.
Just because you run the streets here, don't run the streets in other towns.
Thanks for coming.
See you Thursday.
Yeah, see you Thursday.
All right, so we're done with that one. You said Paul was running late?
Yeah, Paula and probably Darren as well.
Okay.
The other part of that was also young, they're gone, so we didn't have to do that. Just a reminder that you have what you have, and it's your call, you are the council, but to be honest, you're coming up with two of them. As a city administrator, I'm gonna have a hard time recommending. The original program was designed, and I actually set it up in 2008 or 9 and revised it in 2011. And even though I support everything they do, I think some of these things are getting a little bit out of hand. So when they do come, I would ask that you really look hard at the ice machine that the taxpayer dollars in the Keno Fund are using, as well as sports boosters, which, by the way, was requested that if they do a sports booster, they at least put the bowling on one of those signs. And I believe it right now that they have no intention of doing that. So, not that I'm that, but I think if you're gonna do it, support the entire sports.
Support all your
I
kids.
thought at
Oh, did they
our
add it?
meeting
Good.
that was, yeah, that was on there.
So then I would ask is that, you know, you look to the match part of it and just continue to.
It is all the sports, yes.
We don't have to grant all of it.
No, and that's the other thing, if you look at it, I'm very supportive of all of it, and then if you take this, you wipe out half of your fund all in one shot with several quarters to go, so you might wanna look at how can you best use the Keno money at your discretion. She suggested 72 cents
That's
for
what I
each
paid
one of
last
them,
month.
but
in
I don't
interest.
think that's.
72 cents.
Can I add something, Mike? From peanut gallery?
What?
Can I add something?
Yes, please.
I wrote 2 of those Keno grants last year, or was it 2 years ago, last year? I can't remember now. But one of the things that was on the Keno grant application that always stood out to me was you asked what the benefit to the community was, and you have an emphasis placed on youth in the community. So like the one I wrote, one was for the weight room, one was for music boosters. They had a large community benefit, so when you go into making that decision, maybe you need to look and see what exactly were the guidelines that you're asking for when you had these people fill out that application.
Yeah, I concur with Susan completely, and we were very generous at the time for the right reasons. If you go to a concert, you can see that what do you call those?
Musical shells.
Musical shells are put quite well to work, so they're gonna be here later anyway, so we'll let them do the speaking on that. And if you wanna wait on anything, I see we got number 12, if you wanna take care of Mr. Brian
Yeah,
McDonald.
okay.
Good evening.
Morning, Brian. Evening, Brian.
We've asked Brian to come here just to make sure we quickly get a clarification. There's a couple things that, this isn't anything with the 9th Street project that should not be taken care of, but there seems to be a disconnect on the communication. And when Brian met with Jason, Red, and went over some of it, some of those answers were done, but none of it was done with the city. So this way he can go and explain anything on that. And I think Raleigh has a couple of questions as well that maybe we can just kind of hash out, figure out, and then we need to go forward and get Mr. Ashoff paid before he ends up calling you 5 more times and me 5 more times, so.
Essentially, the biggest thing was, we've got about 132 foot stretch where the outside edge of our overlay got thin. Fortunately, this whole area is over one of the full depth patches we did. Essentially, we went out, it's like, we're not sure what we've got, so we went out and we cored it. We took 2 different cores. The cores come in, essentially, we're 11.5 inches thick when you figure the concrete that we put down for the patch plus the overlay. That the last core we took was 3 foot from the right edge, or the east edge. So my concern was, okay, we've got, when we're looking at it from the top, you don't know exactly what we've got. After we've got the cores, we've got something to look at. We've got essentially 11.5 inches of pavement at the 3 foot line. And when we take and we break that core to try and see there's a bond break between what the original patch was, which is about 7 inches thick, and we've got 4.5 inches of our overlay, that's the top surface. So we've got essentially, even if we've got 3.5 inches on the outside edge, we've still got 10.5 inches of concrete. So my recommendation wouldn't be to rip that out, because what you put back would be less than 10.5 inches of concrete. So we didn't get exactly what we wanted, so I was trying to figure out the best way to be fair to everybody. When I looked at the bid numbers we had, and if we did a complete removal and replacement of the area, you'd be doing it about $26.76 a square yard. Their patching numbers was really what I came back to, which was $62.41 a yard. I figured if we ever had to go out and patch this area because it broke up, we should get the patching pavement number. Like I said, we're going to deduct that from what the amount due is, and if we've got a later date go patch that, we've already deducted it for that. That's the best way I could come up with to give you guys a deduction for not getting exactly the way we wanted it, and
like I said, I don't wanna rip out the whole panel because essentially we've got 11 to 12 inches, 11 and a half inches of pavement based on the cores.
So the
So
overlay was 4.5 inches?
the overlay would have been 6, we're
And
shooting
how
for
far
6.
was, how thick was it supposed to be?
6. And that was the 4.5, at the 3 inch, or at the 3 foot over, it's 4.5
They
inches.
bid it as 6 inches.
Yeah. Now, like I said, the biggest thing, we're fortunate this is over the patch, so we've got essentially 11 and a half inches of concrete there. So,
Is it just that one area then?
yeah, and like I and realistically, you're looking at just at the outside edge of that. I mean, if you go between the 3 foot mark and the 0 foot mark, you're not changing anything. I mean, you've got at least 10 and a half inches out there, which is more than we've probably got anywhere else in town. So essentially, we've got 44 square yards in that 3 feet, in that 130 feet length, and you end up with using what if you were gonna pay them to come in and patch it, it'd be $2,700.34 or $2,734.16 using their patching number, which was about 2 times greater than what their remove and replace number was.
And except for the strip along the outside edge, it is 6 inches overlay?
Yes.
How deep did you core it?
We went through all the way through,
Are you sure about that one?
yes.
Was anybody supervising it when they poured it? Why did it end up 4.5 inches?
It would, we don't run their equipment. I was there when they poured it, and I was the one that noticed that it was thin. So that's why I'm bringing it to you now.
So when you were there, why, when it was getting poured, why didn't you?
I told them there, then we had an issue.
Yeah.
It was,
I guess I'm like, if you were
I
there and
was
noticed
there,
it, why
I
didn't
was-
you rectify it at that point?
I didn't, it's on the east side, I was staying on the west side. It was fine on the west side. I went around and I inspected it, and I seen that we had a stretch that was thin. That's, like I said, all I do is identify it, I don't run their equipment.
So after that, then it got back to the normal?
That's the stretch that, yes,
So would they correct their machine or what?
they correct the machine.
It's right in front of McManus's building, Stan's house, McManus's house, and the next house to the north. Your east side's 2 inches, your west side's 12 inches. He notified Mike, I went and looked at it. I measured it, it's 2 inches on the outside. That's their overlay. The west
I
side's 12
disagree,
inches.
I've got 3.5 inches was the
I can
thinnest
take you up there
measured.
to the core sample, that's maybe 4 inches. It doesn't go through to the base. It's right in front of Mike's house.
I've got photos of the core, it was
Why wasn't
11
the
inch
city
core.
involved when you were coring if there was a problem and we contracted you and A&R to do this?
I told Mike, I guess we had
Yeah,
an
he
issue.
did, like I said, I don't wanna get this, but I guess the concern, the elephant in the room was that Raleigh was initially supposed to be out there with the 3 of them. It wasn't. I guess the question that I would have, and like I said, Brian's our new, before you run him off and that, he is our new street superintendent to replace, upon the mayor's request, Terry Mead. So I don't wanna get this going, but if you look at it, tomorrow, if that were to crack out, you're saying, and this is the only question I want to answer, we would be able to effectively replace what that part was cracked up for about $5,000,
Yeah,
$6,000?
like I said, I looked at what I would consider the issue, and I deducted it out. I said, you're sitting on, there's 10.5 inches of pavement there as a minimum.
That's, like I said, if it was sitting in a different spot, I'd be a little more concerned.
Would red,
It'd be like we're uncertain of the facts. Are we uncertain of the facts?
here's, you
There's
just
a big
learned
difference
that this
between
is
2
your,
inches and 4.5.
this is your engineer. It is also their engineer. There's an issue in there, but this is our engineer that you appoint. So he's coming to you the facts. You also have a city superintendent. We're trying to sit there and weigh this out. Brian has submitted and suggested, which is why we haven't paid it yet, but this is his suggestion on deduction. Okay? What you wanna do in any kind of guarantee that you wanna put into or talk with Bruce to work up with Red Ashoff, I would love to see, if we're gonna go this way, a guarantee, at least a 5-year type thing to kind of watch traffic flow if we do crack out, that we're gonna have this replaced at that $6,000 mark. Now, I know prices go up and things, concrete stuff, but I think that's my problem. What happens in 5 years if issue cracks and it comes back and it's 20 grand to do instead of 5 grand?
Well, now we're 6,000 and you got 2,700 on the book. What would it cost to fix it if this chunk blows out?
The patching number, what we paid for patching is what I got off the bid. And
I understand that.
that's what I
it
would
cost to fix it.
That's what it costs to patch, is $62 a square foot, or a square yard.
Which would be 3107, correct? That's just the patching.
No, you guys paid half, we deducted half of that
Okay.
based on that other issue we had. The bid price they had was $62.14, and that's what I deducted of that. You guys paid the patch at $31.07 because he went in and started before he was supposed to.
We get,
That was the agreement we had at that other
then
meeting.
we get 25 off that, Mike.
Yeah. We did.
So what was the contractor's response when you said, this is thin over here?
Is
Did he say whatever, or?
he adjusted the machine. Like I said,
It's a little late then, but they didn't consider
Well,
going back and
we-
rectifying where it was thin? Which, if
You
you
pay-
pay for 6, you want 6.
it's paving machine, it's not as easy.
I know. But if you have a problem, you go back and you fix it. In my book. That way, it's what the specs call for.
I can't argue, which is why we can't effectively move forward at all until you guys, as a group, collectively, figure out what is it we wanna do. Ashoff's looking for his money. It's as simple as that. Your engineer, JEO, is here to
Ashoff
explain.
was hired by the county.
Correct,
Our obligation, to the extent there is any obligation, is to pay the county.
correct.
And I still don't have any signed documents on any of that. But I know we don't have a contract with Ashoff.
Correct.
The city has nothing on specs, the city has no contract with Ashoff.
It's
We
just
just have this little gentleman's agreement that if the county orders this work done, we'll reimburse the county.
It's just your interlocal that you signed, whatever that was, with the county. And the county said, we'll go ahead and do this, if you'll do this, and yes, the county could pay Ashoff, and then we deal with the county. That's one way. Unfortunately, Brian is also the county's engineer.
I can't speak for the county as far as what
So
they're.
Brian, you're saying that if that broke up for 2970 or whatever, they'll come in and tear that out and patch it for that?
That's what their patching price was.
Is that tear out and patch?
Yes, that's what the patch price is. It includes saw cutting the pavement, preparing the subgrade, and putting the concrete back.
I guess I wouldn't be opposed to paying the bill if we had some kind of a guarantee that down the road, that if that happened, we're at that price, not at.
Won't that need to be pinned and doweled if it's cut out?
That'd be part of the.
It's only
it'd
gonna
be part
cost
of
them
the patch.
$2,700, so I can do it right.
if we tear it out, we're gonna lose the patch, and you're gonna end up with something less than 10.5 inches. And that's what my recommendation is, that
I don't think.
we take a deduct and leave it. It would be my preference.
Well, I don't think you'd wanna go tear it out and go less, cause that's a highly traveled road by the farmers. That's, I think, where the reason for the patch was, wasn't it?
The reason for the patch was it was broken up. The asphalt was bad, we had to go in and core out, and we put in the patch. If the asphalt was good, we would've went over the asphalt. But like I said, essentially, you're looking at a thick chunk of concrete there. I'm not too concerned about it blowing out, but I wanted to come up with something as a deduct because it didn't go exactly the way we wanted it.
If we work with, Bruce, just a question, I mean, I'm just trying to think out loud. Can we legally somewhat put a provision in the payment, a guarantee that has to be signed both ways? I mean, a guarantee for up to 5 years. I'm not trying to be unreasonable. I mean, if things are gonna fall apart, in a certain amount of time, 15 years is, whatever, 20 years is somewhere in the life of any, but say within 5 years, that they would guarantee that price to patch it or to replace it.
We can certainly ask. I mean, we don't have any contract with Ashoff at all. You're talking about a substantial definition and write-up problem of what's there. I mean, I suppose if you wanna have me trying to get them to sign something that says if we have to replace up to, 50 or 60 yards of concrete, you'll do it for the $60 a yard?
Through the county or through Ashoff?
Well, the county isn't gonna sign that, and I doubt that Ashoff is, but I guess we can try if that's what you guys want. I'd be inclined to pick a number and say, okay, we're done with you, and if we need to fix it in the future, that's a new project. But,
You'd be more inclined to take a number like 97,191 and just pick a number and give it to
whatever
them?
the number is that the council was comfortable with, that's a reasonable allowance to maybe have to fix it in the future. But if it starts to fall apart and somebody says the tear out and replacement of concrete is a heck of a lot more expensive than the tear out and replacement of asphalt, which we did for $60. Now, where does that leave you? I mean, it would seem tearing out the concrete patch and the concrete overlay is quite a lot bigger project than going through some crumbly asphalt, digging it out and putting concrete in the hole. That's what the patch was, right?
The patch is concrete.
Yeah, they dug out the old crumbly
Yeah.
asphalt and put concrete in the hole. I would think removing this double layer of concrete would be quite a little bigger project than that. But again, you guys have got to make the judgment call how you want to go about the settlement.
What kind of guarantee, Brian, is on there now?
It's a 1-year guarantee
You said probably 1 year.
from the time of acceptance, so that'd be from the time you guys paid them, basically.
Is that running now? Is that acceptance by the engineer or acceptance by the city or?
Paid by the city.
So that hasn't started running yet.
Correct.
I'd like to see stuff done right, but in the same token, hate to hold up somebody's payment too. I mean, they've got money laid out also, but I would think we should have some kind of a guarantee more than 1 year. And at that price, if it does blow out. Do you think that's unreasonable?
I don't think that's unreasonable, and I don't think that's something they fight either. The way the interlocal was, like, you guys paid the contractor directly, so it doesn't go through the county's board. That was part of the interlocal agreement.
Correct.
I think I've got you guys a separate recommendation of acceptance with the change order and the pay application. I'd say make that a condition of your acceptance.
And you've got that, right? You do-
I think she's got that.
Okay, okay.
And if they settle with your number is currently this 97,191, with that allowance in there?
Yes. I think.
It was originally 100,000.
Yeah.
Started out at 75.
This was, yeah, I mean, Raleigh's right, this was an up and down project, Brian knows it too, it started out 75, went up to 100, back down to because of issues, back up to because of, the first issue was patching was more substantial with the change order. So I think we're somewhat settled in at what they believe to be 97,191 with one issue still left to resolve.
The pay app I got before you includes the change order with this part of it.
Right.
Which is what comes to the 97,191, right? That's what I was.
Yeah, because you got.
I just want to make sure that was understood.
Because you got the original on top, and like I said, and there was and the actual change order, if I remember right, just to refresh you on that, was actually double the amount here, but they split the half on the change order. It was actually $43,000 change order, but Ashoff took 21,723, and we took 21,723 to bring it up to the amount. And that was the first condition.
I guess the only question I have going forward is that, and this might be kind of rude, but when you engineer these projects, it'd be nice if they could get engineered what is needed at the time it's done, because we run into the same problem down by the Legion that cost us $187,000 that you guys didn't pick up on because of the mushy ground underneath. So to me, it seems like maybe there needs to be a little more extensive research into these projects. Is that the wrong thing to ask, Brian, or not?
You're saying to ever have a project without a change order?
I'm not saying, but the change orders seem to be quite extensive. I mean, that was $87,000 extra down there, just for that change order on that half a street down there by the Legion.
I know what it is. I'm not
saying that the change order is not
problem happened. I
necessary.
know.
It seems like every project that is engineered, there's always a change order for something that's been overseen.
And that wasn't Brian.
No, I know it isn't,
Well,
but I mean going forward.
I understand.
You understand what I'm trying to say? I mean.
I don't like doing change orders either. I'm not gonna lie to you. What they ran into, like I said, you can go through and we could core every 3 foot and then do a design on that with the pavement. But you could go over another foot and get a different sample, and you end up with something different. At some point, you've got to
run
figure out
the
what's the
risk sometime.
best.
I mean,
Yeah.
you gotta just go.
Not everything is a perfect world. You don't know exactly what's under the ground.
I agree, but it just seems like
Yeah.
they're awful
I know
expensive.
what you're saying. Yeah.
You know, that is expense that we
Yeah.
are looking forward to. I mean, I guess you're gonna get paid one way or the other. I mean, I guess my feeling is that we pay this, but some kind of a guarantee built into it.
Well, I think that's what Bruce is saying on this, we can at least try, put the guarantee in there and see where it goes.
You could make your motion to pay it only subject to the guarantee being extended to 5 years total, and see if they'll take it on that term.
Is that unreasonable?
I don't think
I
we
don't-
need to do something like that.
Yeah,
I'd say at least for the stretch you're looking at, with a 5-year guarantee on that piece of it, and to extend the whole project, I think, is probably beyond the scope of what you're looking at. And we've got an area that we're looking at specifically.
And you know exactly where that's at.
Are we gonna get a legal description, measured and stuff? that
I've got,
put
I've got
into an
stations
agreement?
on the plans of where it's in. I've got it measured out.
Do we need to put that in that, then, illegal, where it's at?
I think all of that needs to be, Brian will.
I can get you that description of it. I've got it by, we've got a measured station, for the project. We base it on our alignment, and I know where the 132 foot is at in that alignment. It'd be, I can make a description of that.
So right now, the warranty that's there is in Ashov's contract with the county, right? There is no contract. with
There is
the
no
city.
specific contract with the city.
Yeah, so we're gonna have to have some separate agreement with Ashov. The warranty runs directly to the city on this.
Run it through the county, or do we have to run it straight, you run it straight through you to Ashaw?
Well, what are you gonna do? Call the county and tell them to fix your street? I don't think that's gonna happen.
That
The
would be.
warranty's gotta be directly between Ashov and the city. Well, we can try to put that together. It's strange, but not impossible, I suppose.
Well, I think we need some guarantee.
Yeah, I don't think that's unreasonable.
And Raleigh, will you, also, be included in the measurements to make sure it's that both representatives from the city and also from contracting company are agreeance and,
Well, we ain't gonna see eye to eye.
well, I know, but.
I'm doing the best what's here for the city, cause I work here, I don't live here, but I work here. Just saying.
Well, and just keep in mind, and I'll say that, because Raleigh's our city superintendent, but keep in mind, by a very strong process, that is your city engineer. I mean, not JOs, not anyone that we appoint, so you either go by your city engineer and on good faith on some of it, or why are we dealing with JO to begin with? Correct, Brian?
I wouldn't argue that.
Well, he definitely probably knows more about it than we would, but I think that's the route we should go, Brian, and try it and see what happens, I guess, if they accept or don't accept. If they want paid,
I
We need
think you
some
make
guarantee.
a condition of your payment. I don't think that's unreasonable.
because what after a year's guarantee, it goes all to hell, and then we're stuck for replacement costs, which we shouldn't be, but we would be.
That's why we're deducting it out now, I guess.
So do we?
Need to make a motion.
Need to make a motion on that, or? Make a motion that we go on Brian's recommendation of the deduction and pay the 97, 191.20, with the understanding that we need at least a 5-year guarantee on the repair project if necessary, at the quoted price of $29.
Just repair it.
Just repair
Just
it.
repair it.
Okay, at whatever cost, I guess.
Second.
We'll say all that. You got all that down, Courtney? Okay, we have a motion and a second on Councilman Napperstack's motion. Julie?
Aye.
Tom? Mike?
All right.
Brian?
Aye.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Brian.
Sorry to give you such a hard time.
It's all right. Been through worse. Mike, I'll get you the station, basically, the description of what I've got in that 44 square yards.
Okay, and we'll go out, and I'll give it to Raleigh, we'll go out and
Okay.
then, I guess, Bruce, you're kind of possibly going to make it, the rest of it, to kind of make it up, so.
Well, you guys do your measurements and settle down the line before you give it to me.
There you go.
All right. You guys have a good night.
How many of those people?
Thanks, Brian.
Oh, gee, as I said, important to know.
Paula's here. Do we want to wait for Darren, or is Darren coming?
He stayed behind. The game just now got over, so I don't know.
You can go ahead and do
Do
policy.
the policy. Okay. This time we'll go to the King Grant application for the Plainview Public Schools.
Actually, this is for the sports boosters.
Is it?
I'm the sports booster.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, and it says.
That's
I'm
okay.
sorry, Paula.
I know it's kind of confusing because we're both the school, but we're actually the sports boosters, so we
Right.
are separate from the school. We are asking for the Keno grant for these record boards, and I believe you should have a copy of what they look like.
Yeah,
Yep, okay.
so they're packed.
Okay, good. So the Sports Boosters is a group of parents, I guess, best way to describe us, that work together to fundraise and raise money to support our student athletes. We also try to encourage them to do we do sportsmanship packets and different things such as that. But we go around to all these other schools and we see these, boards, record boards displayed in the gyms and whatnot, showcasing the athletes, the drama students, the speech students. And we'd like to have something like that to brag upon our athletes and our students in general. So Love Signs is the one who has done done the estimate for us. The signs that you see there, they would all be able to be changed and updated as needed. This year I am in charge of fundraising for the Sports Boosters. And so I've organized several different fundraisers. First of all, we sell memberships always. There's a membership committee that sells memberships, and that is how we get a lot of our funds. I also am doing a Swans food fundraiser here this fall. We're going to be starting it shortly. We get a certain percentage, 20%, for the first 40 days of Swan sales to anybody who orders Swans. That automatically comes back to us, and then that declines to 5% for the next 45 days. So we're doing that. And then I have another fundraiser all lined up for January during the basketball season, and we also ran the concession stands during during little boys football and the soccer. And we also have 2 game nights already scheduled on the school calendar. As you can see, I had Courtney actually update us. We are at, our matching funds right now is $2,500. When I first made the application, we were at just $2,000, but we had received for some more funds through our membership drive. So I know I'm actually asking for a little more than what the boards were costing because we did not include labor in our estimate.
Are all these things in here that are on these boards, are these accurate?
No, I don't think so, no. I am not looking at one directly, but I don't believe they were.
No. 'Cause
They were just
What are you looking at?
examples.
The state champions, they got Mitchell Clues down 11 and 12 at W. I don't think they're asking. It was golf.
Yeah,
And Kelsey Vana, they got her down for golf, and I don't know if she was a state champion.
Speech.
Down as a G.
Isn't there record boards of some kind there now?
they are, and they are very dilapidated and in need of.
But those are the black and silver boards
Yes,
with
and
the
so-
letters on them?
Right, and these are gonna be boards that are gonna go on the wall in the Pirate Gym. So when you enter the Pirate Gym on what would be the home seating side, they're gonna go right there on the left. And so anytime you're in the gym, they're gonna be very visible.
Do they need to be updated then?
Yes, they can be. They're like vinyl.
Or do they have to slide out of there?
Yep. Yes. And I thought I included that, how it could be done.
it's on your price.
Okay,
Shows.
and I don't have it. I think I gave
Says
you my
signs
original.
and removal of slats.
Yes, there you go. I knew it was something with the slats and it wasn't just individual. Oh, and I also applied for the Jim and Lillian Cooper Foundation grant, but of course, I have not heard back from them. And I will not for a while yet, until December, I believe.
I would only have 2 questions, and they're actually minor from what we talked about earlier, but I think I was right the first time, and I had talked to Dan briefly, but, first thing you should find out is what the school, the board and that, what kind of match that they'll put in. Usually what you would do is match whatever they would somewhat if they're putting in, you know, depending on if this is a 4,000, maybe it's already in there, maybe was the total price 8,000?
No, it's $5,935
So what is
just for that, but
what
that
is
does
it?
not include the labor. That
Right.
was not. We were just doing. As sports boosters, we said we would do the product. You know, we'd help them raise funds for the product.
What did the school say about it? I mean, as far as their match, what?
Julie, were you going to say something?
Yeah, the quote though says total material and labor.
Okay. Okay.
So that
Good.
would
Maybe
include the labor.
Maybe I misunderstood him when he told me that. And as far as what they are willing to match, I do not know what the school board is willing to match.
I would just say contingent, you could always do that, a contingent upon the school match. I know, I spoke to Darren, the other thing was, like I said, there is no bowling here at all.
And we struggle with that because it is not through the school. I mean, we've talked, Darren and I have talked about that back and forth. It's not that we don't exclude them, but it's not a school sport. I mean, through our school.
And that's just what you gotta think. I mean, I agree with Paula, but if it's not, you know, representing the city, you know, the city funds. So you just look at, my recommendation was whatever, if it's, they need 4,000, Courtney already told you what the balance is. You know, it would be somewhere in the vicinity of half, we let them match half with a bowling booster board that goes on there, or at least on the total champions. And I did have a conversation with Darren a little bit, like, too. I know there was a struggle, so.
Because I guess the other thing is you gotta look at it, I understand that bowling is a city sport, but so is baseball and softball. And, you know, so we have to draw the line somewhere.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Why? I think we should wait and see what the students do, maybe.
And if Darren was here, he probably would have that answer for you. I'm sorry. And I could quickly text him and see if he could give me that answer. I was hoping that we'd both be here together.
He's gonna want an ice machine. What do you mean what he's gonna do?
I left the ball game early and we did lose it in 3 sets. So thanks for letting me come late so I could finish cheering us on.
I think we can just leave this open for next.
Sure.
till
I
we're
mean,
fine.
you can table it. I mean, just because it's due this month, you can table it till next month and let them work up any figures they want. I mean, it just was due. I mean, that's why it's up on this,
But we
agenda.
can, it'll be okay to have,
Mhm.
just do this quarter, is
Yeah.
what you're saying.
You're there, you can do it next month if you want.
I'd say we table it till next month.
Until, so you know that I have the correct answer for you. You would like to know what the school is going to put in.
Well, I think the school.
Okay, the
should
match,
put
and that's
something-
fine, I'm just wanting to know so I can convey that question
Yeah.
correctly. Because the sports boosters, you know, like I said, we already have 2,500 of it,
Yeah.
that's the sports boosters.
Because it benefits the school.
It does, oh yes, I'm
School.
not arguing, I just wanted to make sure that, so I can get the right answer for you.
School history.
Mhm. Mhm.
Is that a motion to table?
I'd make a motion to table until we.
We'll find out the schools.
And the school's gonna match.
Now, I'm sorry, I'll let you go.
You have a second?
Sure, I will second.
Okay. The motion is second to table the,
About a second.
Plainview Sports Boosters Keno grant application until we find out what the school's gonna pony up. Julie?
Aye.
Tom? Mike?
Aye.
Brian?
Okay, my other question is, then do you just want me to relay that to Mike, or do you want me to come back to the next meeting to report that? Or just send you a handwritten,
We'll have to vote on it next month.
Yeah, vote on it next month. If you have changes in that, you know, Darren wants to, I mean, however you work it out and that, But if you have paper, if you wanna give it to Courtney to
Okay.
put in the packet, that way we got it set, that would be fine.
Okay,
Just to pre-warn you maybe, Paul, is that our Keno fund is getting down, so possibly the total amount you are wanting might not have.
okay, and you know, that happens with everybody's budget.
Money's money, right?
Right, right, we're just thankful that you guys are even considering this, so, I mean, 'cause we appreciate that.
We need to get more people going to D&K and Keno.
Keno.
I can only do so much.
Just, I haven't hit on a spot yet, so I might keep supporting.
Just food for thought in these numbers that you have for the amount of banners. Is there gonna be 11-man football and 8-man football, or just one football?
I think it's just gonna be one football.
So I guess
I know, and it's kinda
That
crazy
comes-
because we've bounced back and
that comes
forth.
to a problem with who's gonna be left out.
And that's true, because there'll be a whole line of difference.
Because all
Matthew Hoffman's a
all the state
wonderful runner, but
champions
he's
are-
not a.
State championship teams are
McCready.
11-man.
McCready.
There's a spider right there trying to crawl on you.
Unless, when they make their vinyls, the slats, unless they can put it in there on that slat.
Yeah, that's,
And that was something I never thought about, and then who's to say we don't go back and forth again?
oh yeah. That's just something to consider to see whether it changes the price or if it's considered to have them both or whatever. Doesn't make any difference to me, but I'm just trying to stave off some people screaming.
Yeah, now that
There'll be one great big guy that you know that will
Yeah.
have a problem with
Thank you guys very much.
Thanks, Paul.
Paul,
How big is he?
because you do have a
Per day.
Maybe if I smiled really
Yeah.
big, you could do that.
That might work.
You got McCready, you got Lindenfelder, you got the whole 2005 state championship team.
All right. Guess we can do number 8, huh?
Yeah, make that, hopefully fairly simple. This one you have already looked at, you have a sheet in front of you, so I got number 8 on top. I had this out in front the whole time, I had to show Courtney where it was at.
Courtney didn't know?
No, she had to show me. Don't get her going.
All right.
We talked about this in the summer workshops over. You'll look that nothing has changed based upon your recommendations. This is what was in budgeted for, and everyone's included.
So we just need a motion to approve the new wages as of 10/1.
Yep. If you see something that's out of line, like I said, I've been through it here for the last check, but Courtney's, very good about recording what you put down.
I think that's pretty
I think
much
it's
what we decided.
That's what we decided, that looks like to me.
The only other thing would be the HSA.
Yeah, and that's, that'll come up in the discussion with insurance as it comes, so it's a total separate item.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the new wages as of 10/1/17.
I'll second that.
Motion is second for approval of new wages as of 10/1/17. Julie?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Good deal. Number 9, discussion action for approval of lot split for Ron Bonner.
I gave this to Bruce. I'm gonna give a couple of copies. I've got the Mylar back at the office, but upon discussion with Bruce and going through it myself, this is a property that is, in your packet, you'll have what's called the extraterritorial jurisdiction on a lot split. And this one is where Jerry Bonta's house, if that gives you kind of a location. I'm not gonna go legal.
Is that the county too?
Yep.
We're splitting this here.
Splitting this off to allow Basically, he wants to sell that off to Elwoods
Yeah.
to build, and I've went through it, you know, 2 or 3 times and tried to see if there was anything out of line, and I didn't see anything. I think it's a pretty straightforward split.
Yeah. The meter.
Oh, okay.
No, we actually went and yeah, the city approves it because it's the cities. I mean, I can go to the county, I know what the county would say, and they would. They wouldn't, they'd say, you do it yourself, so.
Well, yeah, and there is one issue, I wrote the resolution to try and solve it, but they say all over this thing that it's Bonta's addition to the city of Plainview. I mean, it's not an addition to the city of Plainview. That's gonna confuse the Billy what out of the county people.
Yes, it will.
When the thing shows up, it's Bonta's lot split of Outlot F.
We are not.
Why would they
doing
wanna say
annexation.
it's Bonta's addition to the city of Plainview? We're certainly not changing the city limits. They need to redo there.
I thought you said you had to have legals on everything. This here says the south-southwest to 60 penny nail and 24-inch cedar tree.
I would criticize that also.
I know you would.
One of them is he drove a nail with a bottle cap on it. and
Double head nail
that's
and
his-
power pole.
That's his, yeah, this is really classy surveying markers.
If it makes you feel better, this is a surveyor that the city has not used ever.
Yeah, so the surveyor.
And I have a feeling Bonta will not use them
Nail
again.
and quarter post. Nail and
Yeah,
nail and bottle cap.
yeah.
Let's see.
44 feet northwest of the nail in the bottle cap. That'll be there next week. But that's not your problem. I mean, your issue is just,
The
do
split.
you care if he splits this lot? Not really.
No?
So hand this down and you'll see how I tried to compensate. But I think he needs to go back to his surveyor and have him recaption this so that it says it's a lot split, not Bonta's addition to the city of Plainview.
Yeah, it was actually kind of an interesting sort of lot split. Ron came in and
It's, well,
he
as
just
the
wanted you to
description
sign
says,
it. He wants you to have a
it's
meeting
a lot split
about.
of the former lot, Outlot F, outlots to the college division. But it's not in the city of Plainview, and certainly not an addition. So, yeah, it's got to loose when you capture this lot as an addition. But if you look at the resolution,
Maybe they're annexing it.
I've been talking to some people lately, and there's a lot of discrepancy. Where exactly is the city lying north of town? I mean, Bonda is a city, right? So is it that corner then that's,
What you talking about this property?
no, I'm talking about where Plainview City ends and the county starts.
Yeah, it kind of does this, Cindy. Kind of a notch and.
Right, the best way to look at this is from any point in any part of the city, within 1 mile of that furthermost point is technically the extraterritorial jurisdiction of a Class 2 city. Class 1s have 2 miles.
zoning jurisdiction, but she's asking where's the city limits?
Yeah,
The
the
city
dump,
limits,
the
Emerson.
dump is part of
City
the
limits
city?
are at Emerson Avenue.
Emerson Avenue.
That is the city limits,
Yep.
the north line. The city proper does not go up to the section.
No, it does not.
Actually, it's the one we did for Steck's properties on the
Steck's
city
on the
limits,
top.
Bonda's is on.
Yeah.
That's on the
So
same.
Doug Bus is a city,
No.
No.
he's the county, okay, but Ron Vaughn is city,
No.
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 Ron Bonner lives on the hospital.
I mean,
Yeah,
Jerry.
you're talking about
Bonner's
Jerry
property.
Bonta. No, Jerry
That's
Bonta
county.
is out. This is Ron Bonta is doing it.
Yeah.
He is the one.
Yeah,
who
but
has
that's
it.
county, Lon,
Yeah.
that's county.
That's,
He's really confusing.
They used to have the maps up here, but they moved them over to
well,
the.
we need a motion for it.
That's the resolution. Well, look at the resolution,
Well,
or even consider reading
I assume.
it. I know that's a lot to
I know
ask.
it's
I
just bad
assume you
taste.
have it all correct.
Just
Well,
one,
of course
just
I
one
have it
little
all
type of
correct, but
A
it'd
for
still
the-
be prudent for you to read it.
I'm just saying on Peg's last name, you get an A instead of an O. It's just one little typo.
That is correct.
I just thought it was
Okay, see, it's not correct.
Oh, Fanta, that's Fanta
I'm not responsible for typos.
No, I don't.
That's Courtney's responsibility.
Courtney,
I didn't type this one out.
Isn't that a Star Wars character?
actually.
Fanta,
She's the one that's gotta put it in the book.
I'll fix it when you
Okay. Do we have a
I'm good.
number?
But if you, take a motion to pass this resolution, if you wanna do that, you will approve it as a lot split. But I essentially am telling them there in the resolution, you're not gonna call it an addition. I think we should tell them to redo the plat before you sign it.
I can do that.
But we can go ahead with the
Yeah,
resolution.
the resolution is accurate.
I make a motion for the resolution number
560.
560
Everybody's tired.
for the lot split of Vana property. I need to read the whole thing.
Oh. I'll just find out what Courtney fixes her typo.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval of resolution 560 to lot split the Bonner property. Julie?
Aye.
Tom? Mike?
Aye.
Aye. Discussion action hiring a new utility worker.
For reasons that we will not get into, that number 10 and 11 is now off the board.
Okay. Raleigh, you're up. Discussion action on purchase of this mower.
I can go get some coffee, you got 13, 14, 15.
Yep.
Bathroom break.
This one, Councilman Napperstack wanted us to look into, so
Ditch.
Ditch is taken care of.
This is the,
on the disc mower, there are, I believe, 4 quotes, I think there was. The average size is about 7 foot, if I remember correctly. Except for the Manzer's one, it was 5.5. Everything else was a 5-disc mower. That one was a 4. And New Holland also, I apologize.
You didn't tell me all that stuff, but interestingly enough, I've been looking at buying one.
You wanna rent it to us?
What tractor are you gonna put it on?
Or little John Deere 4720 or 4370. Map, what is it?
I spent 20 minutes on the phone with Manzer a week ago, and we concluded that a 4720 is not sufficient to run one.
Who'd you talk to?
What?
Who'd you talk to?
Manzer's salesman?
Chris? Jeff?
I don't know.
I talked to them both.
This is a 7-footer, 40 horsepower.
The,
The horsepower will run it. The only thing is the tractor will tip over sideways, because they're heavy.
the one from John Deere was right off the website before out here
Yeah,
getting to
and
me.
it says on the website it'll do it. If you look in the commentary on the website, on the John Deere website, there's a guy that says you would have to be an idiot to run this on a Class 1 tractor. I would not want someone to call me an idiot. And the 4720 is a Class 1 tractor.
Tractor?
So all you gotta do, well, I don't know, but I mean, if you wanna do a disc mower, go for it, but if you're gonna get one, I would suggest you get the littlest one possible. I don't know. Lyle, you have a disc mower?
Do not.
That is the lowest one on the sheet, isn't it?
That's fixing.
Yeah, from
Said
Mandar's,
Mandar's
5.5 foot.
Said mine, Mandar's is 5.5. And that's not much reach, but these things are heavy.
800
They're not a sickle.
820 pounds,
And I have a
1,000 pounds.
my tractor,
1100.
my big tractor is
1100.
4720, and they're narrow. I mean, we tried to put a 9-footer on a 4020 full-size John Deere up at my river farm a month and a half ago, and just about destroyed the 4020. But that was a 9-footer. I became impressed that they're heavy.
Is there somebody that we can hire to promote this area?
I I'm leaving this in the hands of the city soup. I don't know of anyone other
There's a
than.
gentleman that mows the dishes.
I did,
Well, I mean, like the state highways.
the state.
That's higher than
They got 15-foot bat wings that either the state does or the state contracts out farmers and equipment, and then they go up and down and do it.
Right.
But as far as like our ditches and our drainage way, we did it. Can't guarantee it was safe, but
Hard.
done.
It's hard to hire somebody for little dinky things like that.
Well, if you don't go with this one, that's fine. You go to the next obstacle on your deal here. There's a mower attachment in that one as well.
How often do you have to mow that?
Now,
How often would you like them to mow it? Or should it be?
Well,
Well, the problem, he did
According to
go
Nat,
down through the
weekly.
center and finally mowed it, which, it really does look nice. But the problem we got now, that I can see, and it's been for years, is nobody's done anything with it, sprayed it or anything. So now you got trees growing up on the sides, so pretty soon our drainage ditch in town is gonna look like Highway 13, which is a complete disaster, with trees in the walk. If we ever get a big rain, we're gonna flood down south
I
here,
was gonna say.
because
did-
we
did you
can't
flood
get rid of
here-
the water.
Did you flood here this last week?
I was trout fishing off my back deck.
It comes back up the alley. Because and the other thing that needs to be fixed is the drainage ditch by the Hemricks. Is that?
Both sides, on both
You
sides.
can have that whole intersection full of water and you got that much water running down the ditch. Because,
There, you're talking about a backhoe, aren't you? You know?
well, that can be taken care of with a
Mower can't fix
backhoe,
that.
but the only way, either you do this or you start spraying with Roundup, Tordon or something, because the trees are taking over.
How big are the trees?
Well, you could probably kill them, get them with your Bobcat.
That was my question.
Yeah.
How big are the trees?
That's what I was gonna ask you, how much
they're
is
under
one of
3
those?
inches.
Huh?
The Bobcat one will take 3-inch tree.
There's a lot of banging and clunking goes on if you do a 3-inch tree, but it'll do it.
I'm just going off what the experts show me. They're the ones that sell them. I operate them. I don't know.
But anyhow, I guess maybe table this till we get more information. I can't believe it tipped the tractor over because it's gonna be laying on the ground. Isn't it wild?
Well,
I can't believe a place would sell something that's not safe for.
You know, I mean, you're gonna be mowing with it up in
It
the
don't
air.
much matter to me.
probably my tip the tractor overstatement is an exaggeration, but that's the problem.
No, I know, I understand what you're saying,
It's
but
darn strange that the manager guy told me after I pressed him on it 3 or 4 times, are you gonna promise me this will run on my 4720 without trouble? He said, oh, I don't think we ought to do it. And then he wrote you a quote for one. Cause I was gonna buy one.
maybe you wanted to buy red.
I don't know. They're a great tool for that type of stuff, and they're.
Well, it'd be a great tool, cause then you could just go along and keep that mowed out and keep it in shape, but I guess maybe do a little more research and see what you find out, Raleigh, if 4720 is capable of handling or not.
Go buy it and return it?
And get back to us.
Go buy it
We
and
can keep
return
it
it?
on, we can keep it out there. you know.
If you buy a 7-footer, and if it works really good, then I'll go buy one.
I'll sell you used one.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're tabling this,
Well, that thing isn't gonna get used till next year anyway, right?
Probably.
More. I mean, stuff isn't growing much anymore.
Pretty 9 inches. Sun's coming out.
So we're tabling this more?
Yeah.
Alright. 14, discussion act purchase of skid loader and attachments.
I gave you 2 bids. One's for a Bobcat, one's for a Cat. Pretty identical machine. I apologize you didn't get them on Friday. It's the machine, a bucket, a broom, and a mower. I think that's all of it in there.
I want to say it's apples to apples comparison.
Yep.
Front mounted shredder?
Yep.
How big a one?
72 inch.
that for cutting brush? Is that what that's
Yep.
for?
It'll cut 3-inch trees. We can use it for our nuisance properties that don't like to mow. We can use it in our ditches. We can use it at the C&D. Pretty much anywhere. We can get a Bobcat in. And it has on there also the trade-in for our thing we have now.
Not that I should keep kibbutzing on equipment, but what Bobcat were you talking about, Ryan? You didn't give me that stuff. $595?
75 horse, 74 horse, sorry.
Plenty of horsepower, 8,000 pounds?
I don't know. Yeah, Darren's got mine.
Here, Bruce, you can.
Say what it weighs?
Julie, hand it.
I think it's 7,000.
I got one at home, I just.
I think it's a 6,900 weight, if I remember correctly. 2,200 lifting.
Yeah, I'm running that shredder on a 9,000 pound machine, and it'll jerk you around some. Horsepower will handle it, certainly.
You're on track, so.
Yeah, which is heavier.
Mhm.
You're talking about wheels.
Yep.
Which one do you recommend?
No recommendation.
Raleigh, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Are they full cabbed?
Full cab air conditioning,
Stored.
heat, AM, FM, stereo, XM.
Yeah, we were,
I can put a backup camera in it if
we
you
were
want.
out of the farm, we ran Bobcat religiously.
Mhm.
The problem we ran into is when we went to a full enclosed cab with a door, the miscellaneous stuff we were doing out at the farm, if you had your loader raised halfway up, you're stuck inside the machine.
Correct.
We went to a JCB. Did you look into that? Because there are
Personal
one on-
preference, no.
Say what?
Personal preference, no.
No? Okay. Just enough.
I know what you're talking about, the
Because
one
they
on,
have
if
the
you get
side
in the
door.
side and.
Right.
No, I did not look at them, because, bad history.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Can we knock the price down if we cut the fan belt for the AC and take the AM, FM, and XM out?
No, is that standard?
Well, I know you can. That's the way the gas company truck is.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if it's 260 though, it'd be about 210. Maybe max speed 16 mile an hour.
Yeah, 2 speeds.
You say this one, the one you want has wheels, both of them have wheels?
They're both wheeled. I didn't think that a town our size could justify having tracks. But, you want
The
tracks?
track's a little more expensive.
Yeah. A little more expensive, a little more maintenance, a little heavier.
About $10,000.
You can give that back to Bruce, you can hand that to Raleigh, that's his.
Or you can have it, I got computers full. You can have it. I'm good. Yeah, the only thing I didn't do is give you a grand total, but it's under 40,000.
You get prices all over the place.
I don't think you can go wrong with Bobcat. Bobcat.
No.
That's
This one's 28,250.
Plus you get to add all those. You know, that and that.
You take that one,
We just
and
put hook into the
don't worry about
machine,
the option counter, we just go those there. The machine,
$7,000
it's $7,000 difference. The attachments are pretty darn close.
Which one's more?
Yeah.
Bobcat,
Bobcat's more?
$7,000.
Bobcat's better anyway, buy that.
Yeah, I'd buy the Bobcat, it was me, it was my money.
And at least Bobcat shows you the government discount you're getting.
The other
Supposedly
thing,
Chat just throws theirs in.
for one more 2 cents, the other thing you need to do if they're not on there, put all the saddle weights on the back of the little guy that you can get.
No, they're optional. Cat had them on there, I think they're $700 or something.
Yeah.
They're on the
Get
bottom
all
of the
the, get
homepage.
all the weights on the bottom that you get, because when you raise that big shredder,
It goes forward.
stuff happens.
Mhm.
That thing is heavy.
Or not John Deere, this one's only 48.
Yeah, for their shredder, and then here's the weight.
Uh-huh.
And they would not give me an actual I tried looking them up, but I couldn't find an actual look at them.
And these people will give you a state discount?
It's already figured in there.
Oh,
Bid. But the other one, Bobcat showed you
okay.
exactly how much they give you.
I just got
And
mine.
as far as trade-ins out here, they're giving you pretty much apples to
Is
apples.
it performance, Mike? You want your answer or not?
35, 15. I see Bobcat give you the 15 difference for the trade-in, what?
I wasn't done negotiating.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we gotta work on this a little bit more.
44,000.
These freight charges, is that delivered to their location or is that delivered here?
I believe letters. I'm sure I can get those taken off.
Those and have them delivered.
One's kind of your neighbor. One's your neighbor.
He might bring up a used one. Sell the city cheap. Well, it might be higher because he cleans the streets with it.
I get whatever I can out of it.
I would say Bobcat, wouldn't you?
Well, you're talking 7,000 difference right off the top, just for the machine. Yeah.
Cat had a little more ground clearance, a little less lifting weight, a little heavier. I mean, they're pretty darn close. One's gonna be white, one's gonna be yellow. Functionability ain't gonna change.
What? You're looking at the cat. You know, if you take this price and subtract it from that, you get $7,000.
I love this room full of experts. Everybody's had.
Wow.
We're looking at close to $44,000.
You gotta be under that, yeah. So I think actually in that one quote from Cat, they quoted me, there's two different angle brooms, so I forgot to explain that. There's a 68 and there's an 80. There's about $400 difference is all. Like this is one here, 84 inches, 57.
So we either get one or the
You
other.
get one or the other, so you're
Okay.
saving another, sorry, 5,000, so now you're under 39. My bad.
You've seen what the brush cat can do, Napper.
You bet. It's a real tool.
More power.
I'd like to have one myself.
Hey, buy it.
Rent it from the city.
I can come down.
Rent it from the city.
It's only $100 an hour.
Well, it'd get used, that's for sure.
Make a motion to approve the purchase of the Bobcat and the accessories as presented. You know, like the brush, the broom and the
Grapple brush cat, angle broom.
The angle broom is, I don't know which side we want yet. If I want to go the big one or the little one.
It's $400.
$400 either way.
You need a
Well, I
motion.
hate to bust your bubble, but I think you'd be better off with the little one if you're gonna think about doing sidewalks. 'Cause
You didn't burst my bubble. You told me what I already know.
Six,
Because that's what I was thinking, going to 68, you turn it
you're with
sideways.
that 84, you're not getting past the
You
flower
can't,
pots.
you can't do Cliffy Park and it's gonna be a pain in the butt when you go do the park and I was leaning towards the smaller one.
That man's always thinking.
Yep, on top of stuff all the time.
I would say go with the smaller brush
Okay.
in the package.
Then second Brian motion.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second for purchase of the Bobcat skid loader and attachments with the smaller angle room. Julie?
Aye.
Tom? Mike?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
And I'll still work on the trade-in price.
Trade-in and the delivery.
Mhm.
And those, they should be able
Since you're up there still.
I'm just gonna camp out here all night.
15, discussion action semi and trailer for transfer station.
I got no numbers for you on this one. As we talked in our summer meetings, the trucks we're looking at are under 45,000. I found one the other day on the internet, one at 36,000, I think it was, had 180,000 miles on it. It was in Normal, Illinois. But without a action plan or anything, I didn't pursue it because I don't know if we're gonna get one.
Day cabs, twin screw.
Yep.
If we come,
Basically, it was
Freightliner, from that
Western
point of
Star
beginning,
West.
this is quite a beginning to the survey.
sorry. It was a Freightliner Columbia day cab.
Straight south,
I think it was 455 horse, give or take.
back up to there.
Is that just the tractor, or is that?
That's just
include
the, that's just the
wet kit
tractor.
or whatever?
This one did not have the wet kit on it. So you're looking at another, I should have made more copies of this. Here, pass this.
Probably 12 to 1,500, isn't it?
Wet kit was about 6,000. It's all the stuff. It's all the top stuff. Semi's 45, we estimated. Then your trailers, you're gonna be talking about that here shortly. And then your,
That's just your
that's,
estimation.
that's my estimate, that is no 100% number.
This budget,
That is
what did we budget for
purchased
this?
and installed.
We might be light on that walking, this Ford trailer.
The usual.
You know,
You're looking to use?
No.
Oh.
I don't want
You
you
need
to
the
try that,
tractor
'cause if
trailer.
you get used to that, you're in somebody
Oh,
else's
yeah,
problem.
you got 60.
They move quicker than government. The Bobcats, it's like that. We can get them all here.
The internet was saying 60.
These, you find one
Yeah.
out there, you got to move on, so you almost have to
54.
But that's part of it.
and allow.
It was four,
us-
when did we buy that? Do you remember the trailer? We looked, when we looked at the trailer? Was it 04 or 14?
Somebody else just does it, and snaps it
I
out.
think it was one of the,
I was on it when we bought that
I
one.
think it was 04, so that trailer,
I think it's 04.
that trailer is 13 years old.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's probably
I think it'd be nice to, I mean, these are the kinds you just have to search out.
I took the road,
That's a trip. We've done that before. You take it out, send it down.
on his survey. It's probably 116 feet.
It was
Totally
totally
Greek
Greek
to
to
you?
you.
She just said yeah.
It's like looking at hieroglyphics or something.
Yeah, straight across, it's right up. So I figured this distance times 200, and it averages out the corners, and that's what I did. 984 times 200, and that's 4.5 acres. But that's what I got, at least you'll know. kind of-
We have laid down money in the past for like the semi-trailer for transfer, just to hold. We don't, not a lot of them will do it. It's just depending on how quick they're moving. The one that you mentioned with 136,000.
186.
186,000, that's
I thought it was a
hardly
typo.
broke in.
So was a whole place on that one at all?
What was that?
Was a whole place on that one?
No.
That's what we're even
No.
still coming to
Is
you.
I
it
was
still
just-
available?
I can look, I don't know. Let's put it this way, it was about 3 in the morning on Facebook.
From a dealer or?
Yeah. You know all about that, right, Tyler?
That's not a London model.
I don't believe so. He had a few other trucks on there. 07.
Only got 186,000 on
Mhm.
it? What was it, like a farm truck or?
I think so. I will look it up. I saved it on my computer at home, so I will look at it, get some information, I can send it to you, but I guess I was just looking for, is it okay to just start looking, put a little down on something, come back to you and say, this is what we're thinking? I don't know. Never done buying the used stuff for a city before, so this is new territory.
Well, in terms
for
of
me right now.
priority, he's looking for direction from you to pursue that you still are, from the budget side, that this is one of the priorities of the list. He may not be able to get all the things we talked about, we may need just a rotation of trucks, we may not be able to get that, but the tractor trailer is definitely a top priority.
Is your numbers, quantity or priority, or like the 1 and 2 and 1, 2, 3?
Priority.
Those are priorities.
Okay, I was just,
So So the current truck and trailer is like on its last leg here.
The second one.
Second last, like,
Yeah. We always run those two, so the one that's.
the Mac,
going
the
out-
Mac's about done.
The one you bought last
The
is.
red truck
we got
doesn't
number two.
leave anymore, does it?
No, the red truck goes every other day.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Even after the fire?
Yep.
Even after the fire.
Put a can stable or
It's got a great maintenance program.
there we go. I'm look at that baby.
That one's top notch. It's still running. I think they bought that when you were mayor.
We got good equipment back then.
That's back when it was built. Here we go.
So what do we wanna do? Give Raleigh authority to start looking for something?
That's what we've
I'd
done.
say look, but I'd like to see it.
Well, I'd bring all the numbers back to you before we did anything.
Flying out of state, you
Good try.
know.
No,
I'd
they-
look in Nebraska, Raleigh, if you're
As,
gonna
as
look.
best as you can.
Yeah.
Start with, cause I was driving back from, and I don't
Well, there's
know,
one in O'Neill. I'm going there
there's
Monday.
one
I'm gonna
in,
look at.
coming back from Lincoln, the Valparaiso Road, there's a night, and I don't know nothing about it, but it's sitting on the road for sale. I think I seen one somewhere.
Got any Husker tickets? I'll go look at it this weekend.
Yeah, I'd give you them if I had 'em.
I wasn't asking to buy.
I don't know why you wanted to watch them, but
It was just a reason to go down there. I wasn't going to the game.
I'd say start looking in Nebraska first,
Okay.
so we put them
Well,
maximum on, or?
you could do a couple different things. One, if you're giving them the consent, just be aware that we might try to put a small down on it to kind of hold it until we can bring it back, even if it's a special meeting, to get moving on it, because they may say we have a week, or we'll give you a week or something like that. They don't hold these kind of things. I mean, the last time we tried to do it, they wouldn't hold it 30 days.
Oh, I suppose.
If you've got some kind of a hot deal, you could get your deposit to hold it for 10 days and have a special meeting.
Exactly. Yeah.
Don't buy it until you're sure you can buy it.
Yep.
Well, I don't really want to buy one off the internet without actually seeing it. I've heard horror stories. Put it that way.
I got the
It
deal.
runs like a cat.
I got the deal for this.
You guys, I'll bet you'd be good.
What'd you say?
He's got the deal.
Oh.
When you go look at it, you take the Shinar kid with you. And
Yeah,
I'm
take
serious.
Dennis.
I know where, yep,
yeah.
I'm serious.
Yep.
That kid knows diesels.
that would be a good idea.
You know what I thought he said at first? You couldn't understand the word he said, and I thought he said the Shinar kit.
That's what I thought he
And I
said.
said, I don't even know what you're
Shinar
talking
kid.
about, but the Shinar kid, now I
Yeah.
understand.
Dennis.
I would say, yeah, start looking. Look in Nebraska first, though. I would start, see what you come up with.
I will put the word out tomorrow. That's all I got. I can't take up any more of your time. I apologize for that.
Thanks, Raleigh.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Raleigh.
You do it, Dr. Alter.
Dr. Raleigh, you wanna come up and explain your Keno grant?
Yeah, sure, thank you for being patient, flexible with the agenda. I think you have all the information in front of you. We've got an ice machine that's in our kitchen. It's the only one that we have on campus or owned by the public schools. So for any reason that we would need ice in the 712 building, in the high school building, whether it be for athletes or much more likely and prevalent for activities that we have. Public school is a primary community facility. A lot of events, whether catered events or refreshments, whether it's the Arts Council, Alumni Association, Clown Festival, Hospital Foundation does a fundraiser in our FCS during basketball, Booster Club, lots of organizations that have refreshments or a full catered meal. They got to bring in all their ice, whether it's in our FCS room or whether it's in the old kitchen to be catered in the tartan or refreshments in the tartan. So it's really kind of inconvenient. We now have, through the renovations that we did this summer, we have really the potential for a real training room in one of our locker rooms, where there is a perfect place for an ice machine with a floor drain, and a place for to tend to athletes when necessary. So just mainly for convenience for that aspect. This first one of these last few volleyball games, we had a gallon-needed bag of ice. Well, Mr. Frederick, brings over a bag or two, we stick them in a freezer, so I got a solid block of ice, drop it on the floor to break the ice, breaks the bag, ice is all over the floor. I mean, it just would be very convenient for the school, and I think for several community organizations to have an ice machine down the hall from where it would be used multiple times a year, and hopefully not that often for training purposes or for athletes. But anyway, that's it. I did ask for the full price of the ice machine. I don't know if when you consider a Keno grant, whether it's all or none requested, or whether you maybe if you at your liberty decide that authorize whatever other payment. This one is a smaller unit than what we have in our kitchen. And it's one of the lowest priced ones that I could get through this company. We got a new one in the kitchen just a couple years back, from what I understand, and went to the same company. We really liked that one. So this is what I have presented to you.
Darren, we have to
Questions?
apologize on the agenda, you didn't get a chance to look at it, but we saw your numbers and put down 4,350. He's actually asking for 21,350.
21,350.
That's what you got on this, right?
Actually, I think that's
No, 43.50.
That's 43.52.
Sorry.
Just,
You can't read it.
he graduated
back
from
to
Plainview.
Yeah, Mr. Canuck is
Just
my
a
math
handwriting
teacher.
thing.
So are we going back to
It
the
is
So is
four-
it
it's a $4,000.
It's 4,350.
4,000.
21,000, not sure.
The four,
Uh,
the
It
four
looks
looked an
like
awful
21.
lot like 20.
We got a photocopy faux pas.
I,
4,350. If
You
you
didn't-
want it, I shouldn't have said it. You might have
She didn't
went with
connect, she
21,000.
didn't connect the left-hand bar of the floor to the right-hand bar of the
I
floor.
read it right.
Darren, I need to
For all
go
of one,
change
like
my
21,000.
Duluth underwear.
21,000.
On this though, it does look like 21.
Okay, that's a lot easier for you to swallow than I'd ask you to consider the smaller figure.
17,000 in the whole
Yeah.
grant.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Any questions on that for intent or purpose or placement or, community use? I understand it should be a community use grant, and I actually believe that a majority of the ice that would be used from this machine would probably go to community functions.
The same question I'd have, since I know the recommendation there, is that just asking, same thing with the Paula, is the school gonna put any money towards this?
Depends on the decision of the council.
Well-
We sure would commit to it, I mean, without question, but, we'll, I guess, make that decision based on how generous the city council is on.
We like to be generous, but I'll tell you, like I told Paul, right now our Keno fund is not huge.
Mhm.
And, coming in with these bigger amounts, it was all right when our Keno fund was
Yep,
up.
yep,
But we got a long ways to go, and we
Yep.
told her that we probably would not grant the whole. And Darren, I think if we do decide, we would probably not grant full.
okay,
We might do part or whatever council would decide to do,
yeah.
but our Keno fund is not growing like it used to,
Yeah.
unless we lost a bunch of gamblers.
Well, I know one lives on Pine Street, tell them to visit the B&K a little more often, but, yeah. Is this a decision that you make tonight?
We can, yeah.
Oh, okay, I mean, just,
We table Paula's, because and we certainly, it's due now and presented,
Mhm.
but if you want, you can do the same as long, depending on what time frame you're looking at, we can table it too, and, but if you're.
well, yeah, I mean, I wanna get it ASAP, But if there's more information that you want, or need to study, or if somebody just makes a motion on an amount, I mean, we'll just, you know, I'll respect and appreciate whatever you feel is fair.
Is this the smallest one? 'Cause this-
It's a smaller one. I don't know that it's the smallest one, Julie, but it's definitely in the,
Cause we're
on the
producing
smaller
such
side.
a 349 pounds of ice a day.
Mhm.
Do we really need that?
That's a lot of ice.
I just,
It's a smaller one than we have, in our kitchen.
mhm.
And I'm not, yeah, it will produce plenty of ice if you continue to, obviously it shuts off, and most ice machines, unless you're in a Super
Probably
8.
only holds 50.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay, it just-
Yeah, it don't hold.
but
50.
it'll continue to throw ice into the bin if you're taking it.
okay.
This ice maker looks very similar to the one we had down there. I would say, you were asking about size-wise, I think this is fairly standard size, actually. Don't know how much ice you need or anything like that, but like it's almost identical to the one at the coast. Or I should say Mary's Spoon Hair.
See, problem, motion for 2,000. The school, find other sources for the rest.
What do you say?
You know how much money you have, I
she's
do
done-
not.
About 17,000 after the boom.
I administratively don't have problems too. I have more problems with the booster boards than I do on this one, because I knew the Arts Council, the ones that do use, they would use it. I mean, there's no doubt that this is the ones that use. So a lot of community groups do use it. You brought that up, and that was a good point. I really didn't think about that. I was thinking it was more school related than anything, but I know there's a lot of clown days. We were in there stuck.
It seems we have an event in our FCS room, a meal for about every home basketball game,
We do.
where, you know, they'd be filling up coolers of tea and water and lemonade and so on, and it's nice to not have to go back and forth across.
The one thing that would be contingent, and I would recommend to the board, and I think we all would too, is that there has to be somehow, we didn't do it in the weight room, but there has to be an access point or access for all these groups
Mhm.
with, you know, really not a whole lot of question. I think there is,
Mhm.
but I don't know how that works with your security and stuff, you know.
Well, we kind of expect this training room to be accessible and open, not locked down like our locker rooms, because you can have access to it, but we can still restrict access anywhere outside of that particular room, which it used to have to be into the girls' locker room, into the coach's office, into the next room, past the coach's office, but we
That Sunday.
created a door to go into that, so some of you may be seen that. Otherwise, it would probably just to have access to the building. Any of those groups, I don't know that anybody ever has a problem getting into the school, whether they, get a key from administration or, their teacher, colleague, friend, or whoever else, but certainly I wouldn't expect that accessibility to it by
Is
any
she always
means.
able to get in with the play group? I wanna know right now.
I haven't had anybody tell me that they couldn't get to whatever it is they wanted to get to, so.
Well, scribbling on the wall when she was in. Well, we have a motion on the table for $2,000, I guess I would second it.
We have a motion and a second for Keno grant application for Plainview High School for ice machine in the amount of $2,000. Julie?
Aye.
Tom? Mike?
All right.
Frank?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Dr. Earl.
Thank you.
By the way, Paula's gonna be talking to you about
Right, about the.
request,
their request
to see if, the school would put any funds towards those.
Okay, I now have $2,000 extra dollars to put
There you go.
Yeah.
Coincidentally.
Mm-hmm.
All right. 16, discussion action resolution number 558, stop signs by Zion Lutheran Church.
Yeah, I don't know quite what that means, because there's stop signs at the highway, so you got two corners, it doesn't say which
Okay,
one.
I can explain it. I was approached by
Yeah, I know, Mosel, it's the
Carol.
northwest
and
corner. of
she
Mosel.
wants the street, her corner, where she lives, the north and be the north-south stop signs. There's stop signs already on the east-west corners but she said they race up and down that street quite fast, and since it is by the school.
I brought two resolutions, one that would put stop signs at the northwest of the Zion School, one that would put stop signs northeast of the Zion School. I take it the northeast corner is not the question, it's really just the northwest corner.
I think she wanted it.
Fifth Street.
Fifth, not sixth. Sixth has a water hole in it, so nobody races through there.
Yeah, as I said, there is none.
There's a lake there.
There's a lake.
Well, I've got a second one for Sixth, but I think the question is really just the one intersection, the one to the west side.
There's a, that's the west, yeah, it's the west side,
Yeah.
yeah.
Near the motel.
So it's the intersection of Pilcher and Fifth, by my understanding.
Yes.
Yeah, yes,
It'd be made into a four-way stop.
yeah.
It's currently two, but it'd be made into a four-way stop. Well, that's what the resolution says, the one you've got.
There are no stop signs, Raleigh.
Yep.
Buying them by the gross now, or what are you doing?
Buy 13, get one free.
And I don't think this is,
We got them all used.
I don't think this is an unjust.
I might have to buy some more
No, I don't
signs,
think so
but I got
either, especially with all the ones that we put up by the public school.
Yeah, if we did it, if we've got all these stop signs by the public school, why should Zion be any different?
Well, and absolutely, if you, and I know,
You're gonna put a-
you're familiar with this corner, that's
It is.
a drag race, that is a very dangerous intersection.
What resolution number is this?
558.
Oh, sorry.
I'd like to make a motion to pass resolution 558. Putting stop sign on the north and south, part of the intersection of East Pilcher and North Fifth Street.
This
into a
one, it just
four-way.
says four-way
Yeah.
stop, I mean, maybe two of them are there already.
There.
I'd second that.
Have a motion and a second for approval of resolution 558, for making the intersection of East Pilcher and North Fifth Street a four-way stop. Julie?
Aye.
Tom? Mike?
Aye.
Right. Discussion action resolution 559, sale of old library building.
Yeah,
Oh, you got
there I have basically no instructions, I've got blanks, you've gotta tell me what we're gonna fill in here.
He's got this on here for us, so we don't have to
That was
ask.
first blank, it'll fill in, 559.
Well, she was carrying that along. Resolutions don't necessarily keep their same numbers when you get to them, you know, if you don't pass one, it doesn't exist. I kinda hesitate to type numbers on them. So this just describes the library, determines the sale is in the city's best interest, sale by some format, minimum price of something, you guys gotta fill in the blanks. Public auction, sealed bids, what do you wanna say?
Didn't we say public auction?
Well, that's what you were
That's-
thinking with the lagoon land, and maybe
Do them
more
both?
fair, I guess it, well, it's gotta be one or the other.
That was gonna be our experiment for this one. And that's
Coming
not
around,
gonna
but
happen.
it's
Well,
changing.
one thing about a public auction is you get what it's worth that day, where versus a sealed bid,
Yeah,
you could take a beat.
Yeah, no, my recommendation on number one would be absolutely by a public auction. Number two, I think the bid submitted shall provide for minimum price. You can put what you want, but you're gonna get into that low bidding and low balling, so you're gonna look at, 10,000 is probably in the ballpark. The roof alone, it was brand new, not that long ago, for about 21,000. So, I mean, and I'm not saying that's the only selling factor, but it's got a brand new electric furnace, it's all electric, in there, so, sorry to be
Remember,
asking
if you
for.
pass one of these, then this doesn't have all the future details, but we have to advertise for 3 weeks, I believe.
Thanks, 3.
And then we have to wait 30 days, and then we have the sale. So you're strong 2 months out.
It's not advertised, right?
Should be minimum
Discuss that electric furnace.
Yeah, the only other thing, and they're reminding me, but, Bruce, when the time comes, I don't know if it's necessarily in the resolution, but we have to be aware that somehow it's not to the best interest of the city to remove the electronic sign there, so that might need to be a factor in an easement or, something that we wanna make sure as we progress.
Well, we certainly add to 3, retain easement for city electronic sign.
Yep.
Okay, we're gonna reprint anyway. You know that's gonna come.
Sorry to give you grief.
Well, what's everybody think on the starting price? Any good?
Let's start with
You guys can make anything you want. If you wanna go lower, I mean, that's fine. I'm just saying what I'm thinking as the building side.
Well, I'd hate to, I mean, 10's not out of line, Mike, but I'd hate to come to the auction and nobody bid 10, and do we have the right to say, okay, we'll start it at 5?
No.
No.
Well, you can start it anywhere you want, but it's not gonna sell until it hits your minimum.
But there's where I go to the point that even with or without current, that doesn't matter, that's a non-factor, but we can sit on it as long as you wanna sit on it. We want it sold, if you're gonna sell it, I don't know, if you're gonna sell it to somebody off the street for $500, I think you're doing a service to
So
everybody.
the other problem is you sell it
What?
too cheap, once it's gonna be
Yeah.
For $500?
Yeah.
That's prime Highway 20 real estate. I'll tear it down and put something better there. I'll take it for $500.
I'll take it for 500 and put a brewery in it.
No problem.
Got the sign there.
Yeah.
Might say it'd be-
brewery in there, we're gonna come a problem.
Well,
Edit the meeting tape, right? So 10,000 goes in the blank?
You guys like to say,
10,000 the blank by auction.
yeah.
Yep. And then the easement for the city electronic sign.
City electronic
Retain
sign.
easement for sign.
Yep.
So there's your resolution if somebody makes a motion.
I'll make a motion for resolution 559, sale will be by auction, minimum bid of 10,000, and adding a third item of retain easement of electronic sign.
Second.
The motion is second to approve resolution 559. Sale will be by public auction for a minimum price of $10,000, and the city retains easement for the electronic sign. Julie?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Brian? Discussion action update resolution 538 for additional land at Old Lagoon.
You haven't got the old written down yet.
Could I come up and explain?
Absolutely.
Yeah, Lyle, I wrote them a little memo and explained you, go ahead. They kind of understand your.
I made maps for each of you there. Kind of explaining, I talked to some of you about what the situation is there.
Here, I got it.
Thank you.
The motion you had last meeting was that didn't include the highway, or I mean the old railroad right of way. And if you left it like it is, you could see I could only irrigate up to that red X. It only had 5.4 acres. And so the only way it'd work feasibly would be if I could irrigate further. And we'd have to move the roadway, and I would have to own some of that old railroad right-of-way. I since have talked to the NRD, so all of this may be for naught, because I asked them, if I take down that fence and rent or own that property, can I irrigate it? And they said presently, no. They are not allowing any additional irrigated acres in Lower Elkhorn NRD. So I talked to my loan officer, Nick and I did. We farm, well, what's dark green to the north and east there. And he didn't know if it would be feasible to pay $40,000 or $50,000 for a piece that we couldn't irrigate. So I'm kind of torn. I'm optimistic that they will release and allow more irrigated acres in the future. So if I was to purchase this, that would be my prayer, that they would release more acres. Currently, they aren't doing it, but.
Yeah, well, I don't know nothing about farming, but I've heard of different cases, I thought, where maybe that's with wetlands. If you create like a wet area, you can buy acres somewhere else, or?
Yeah, I don't think that's considered wetland.
No, but can you buy acres somewhere else so you could irrigate that, or is it?
Oh,
I thought I've heard of somebody.
Transfer of irrigated acres. The upper Elkhorn is allowing that, but the lower Elkhorn presently doesn't have a resolution to do that.
No. And what's it gonna hurt?
Yeah, I guess I'm optimistic that I went to the last two NRD meetings and they said in 2018 they're going to allow so many additional irrigated acres. Whether they would look at this and say, yeah, that's feasible, I don't know what their criteria is going to be. So it's kind of a gamble. I'm optimistic that we can do it, but
How's that gonna be for, if we do that for semis to get in and out?
That's what they were
At that
discussing.
area.
I talked to Lyle about this. There's an issue there. You know, the more I look at this and go through there, and we can do anything, but when you look at 5.4 acres and what they were getting into, there's almost a point where, and Lyle will agree, that purchasing is kind of out of the ballpark right now for almost anything, and the takedown of that road has got to be, there's going to be a pretty significant cost involved there, which you can, and then not all of this is possible. But then I actually spent about a half hour, a little less, about maybe 20 minutes with the DEQ guy today. He's a good friend of mine from Wausau, and talked about this a little bit. And this is not. Everything's doable, but it's not an overnight process. Obviously, DEQ is not going to just jump in and re-permit based upon, tearing out road right away. I mean, they will. He doesn't see an issue with that, but this would have to generate a new permit, which is all part of the ballgame. I mean, if you were still wanting to go forward.
Well, and also that access road coming off of 537 Avenue there is also a dike in a sense.
Here, pass this down, just
For
so,
either direction.
for any of you that haven't been out there, I was just talking with Raleigh. I just thought I should at least know what the picture is. So I drove down there today and parked my pickup down there on that south road and took a picture with my phone. But you can see here, the semis would have to come in off the highway and onto the gravel road.
Then they have to turn, is what I was thinking about.
Raleigh, I think she just talked, is okay with the angle, but you would have to build an access and a culvert in a ditch.
Right.
And then you'd have to build a road back in there along that east side.
Right.
And raise it quite a bit.
Because that water,
Yeah,
yeah.
so the city, I don't know if you haven't got estimates on that yet, but I would guess you're talking $5,000 or $10,000 access project.
Yeah. Some culvert and stuff,
Yeah, there would have to be a really wide culvert. The bridge Ashoff did a great job building that bridge 2 or 3 years ago. It could handle any truck, but there would have to be a long culvert just east of the bridge.
You'd have to make a new crossing there and then raise a road over to the east side of the transfer station so you could make that circle.
I apologize for not bringing it up in the our budget workshops, but when I was on the council 5 to 11 years ago, whatever it was, the last term, and we had a different city superintendent, but wheels were in motion to move the transfer station to the dump. And then all of a sudden it just
Yeah,
quit
not on
getting
the
talking
council.
about. Yeah,
Huh?
Hey, I got the drawings
Yeah.
for that from that superintendent.
yeah.
I couldn't justify spending over $250,000 to do that either.
Because then it was it just said everything was gonna be at one location and it was gonna have a scale and everything.
But if you did this, I mean, you just recognize you'd be pulling in, and I guess Raleigh raised the question, you'd be pulling on and off the county road out into the highway every time.
Right.
And you'd have to put in a culvert and build up the access road so you could circle in there with the semi, it can only turn so tight.
I guess it's part of doing business. Do we wanna sell it or don't we wanna sell it?
Well, I think that's when it gets right down to it. Lyle, I mean, I know you're involved, but since this is a public venture
Right, and
going on, I mean,
I just
what
wanted
do you- what
to-
do you think? I mean,
I
is
just
this
wanted to
even
give
worth
you
it?
my position and let you know that I probably would not be interested at that minimum bid, the way the situation is, and maybe somebody else would be. So it's up to the city whether you wanna, sell it or continue to rent it. You can see in the color photo there as dryland farming, I've been getting like 30-some, last year I got 38 bushels of corn to the acre off of it. It's just not too productive, dryland. So,
Well, this fulcrum right here and this swing point, which I know you said you're not gonna move best of it, but does the swing point get to, on the edge, and that's the old railroad, but that's all, if I remember, and it may not affect you at all, but that's an old floodplain, right? That's a recognized floodplain all the way up through Plainview, Dry Creek, and then up to then it runs out here over by, the old side dumper, thank you. I mean, does that affect anything? Did Lower Elkhorn even make it?
that I'm not aware of. I don't know if that's, you mean as far as irrigating or
Yeah,
farming or
does it affect
floodplain?
anything what you're even, I mean, because I know it's a recognized floodplain all the way up on that strip right south of, it's the only place we have in Plainview that's, besides the side dumper land.
You can irrigate into a floodplain.
Okay, that would be
I
the
mean,
question I was
there's
asking.
enough farmers out there that have low ground
Yeah.
that's irrigating, you just know it's low and.
I know right to the east there, we have corn standing in water, or did have here a couple days ago, but we still irrigate right up to the,
Okay.
Well, in any event, the question of the night is, do you want to amend your resolution or repeal your resolution, or what do you want to do with this resolution itself? I have an amended resolution here that would bring the line on down to the west edge of the transfer station. I just looked at the map with Raleigh, and the survey, you don't all have that handy, but it had a series of pins and points on it. And I picked the one at the end of the straight line, where the road starts to turn across the north side of the transfer station, is the description I've written. Because from what I understand it down there, they gotta be able to drive around the transfer station. The way the semis come in and go around there, I mean, you pretty much need that circle. So it wouldn't go quite as far as Lyle has drawn his blue line there. It would be back 50 or 75 feet, if you wanna do it at all. I have that description, and we would just pick up tract 1 as the original chunk, and tract 2 is the access road and the railroad right of way. But if you pass that and you plan to sell it, recognize you gotta build yourself a new access into the transfer station.
Take into safety too, when you come off of 9th Street there, you're turning into cross traffic, you won't be up to speed. Then you have to turn cross traffic again to go into the new dragway. And then when you're full,
Yeah.
you come out, you have to cross into the other lane of traffic to get back into yours. They're not up to full speed to turn again. I drive the road every day, I watch awesome drivers paying attention, not at that intersection. Cause everybody, oh, we're going right to Plainview, we turn right here, nobody slows down.
Or you can leave it alone and try to sell it as it
Just
is.
throwing,
Dry land and keep your road. But I think Lyle has indicated he'd probably not bidding much if that's the case. Somebody else might buy it for that, but it's mediocre dry land ground.
Yeah, I think my dotted line is drawn too far there according to what you surveyed, or where you drew your,
Yeah, it'd be back
yeah,
75
it'd be
or
about the
100 feet
line,
or
that
something.
first dot, it'd move it back 50 or 100 feet, but,
And all I've done is I just came down that survey line with this description. It's 984 feet on that north line then, and then just straight south to the highway right of way, back up the highway right of way to 537th Avenue, and back up north to the point of beginning. So it just picks up the road and the old railroad right of way, that chunk of it. But you have to have your mind made up that you're gonna dispose of the road. You can table the whole thing and tell me to hold the resolution and think about it, you can whatever, but that's the call.
my situation is right now, whether I was allowed to irrigate it or not irrigate it, the road, I know there's a couple 8-inch tubes under it, but that road is sort of like a dam preventing that, the old lagoon ground from draining to the creek. And, I would, if you changed your entry into the transfer site, I'd probably use a lot of that roadway to fill in some of that low area. And hopefully get it to drain towards the dry creek.
Would you still be if we, even though you can irrigate, so you'd still be interested in the railroad property?
I think I would be, I guess I'm just optimistic. Nick says I shouldn't be about the NRD opening up more irrigated acres in this area. I know I've looked at, they did that helicopter survey, Daniel, you see it, that, and they said this area is a high recharge area, and that was one of the things they were going to give a plus to open up irrigated acres.
And after this year, they ought to believe it.
Yeah. But then June and July, when it was really dry, then they were leaning the other way, so.
Did you say something, Julie?
Well, I think we ought to go ahead with the sale and include the railroad property.
And if you do it at 2,000 an acre, you're looking at $50,000, you're probably gonna spend 10 building your new road.
higher.
Or something.
So we got employees for it.
That's material, I'm looking at that side, yeah. I'm willing to do, and I think it's a great idea, I just don't, I'm looking at this from a financial standpoint, even your point. I don't know what we're doing, I don't know what we're doing. I mean, we're making an awful lot of work to sit there and arguably, I know you're optimistic, but you're not at that with the Lower Elkhorn.
Right.
I'd be more anxious to sit and
You okay
feel
with
it
renting
and
it?
sit on it, and see what goes on, I mean.
That's what I was thinking.
I see-
We don't have to sell it, do we? I mean, it's not on fire.
I know the past 3 years, well, ever since 2012, when the NRD passed that resolution, no more additional irrigated acres, the only way they have allowed it, and they said it, if the farmer can put his pivot clear around, they would allow, I think, up to 10 or 12 acres. If if the pivot could go clear around. So if somebody took out an old farmstead, they did allow that. But this isn't the situation right now, because I guess I'm not gonna ask you to move the transfer station for me. That's pretty costly. I mean, that'd be ideal. Maybe that's something my kids or grandkids could do in the future. If you ever move it, then it would be there, you know.
Well, I guess I'm looking at it now, I guess maybe we just, I'd hate to see you sit there and find, getting a financial deal where you ain't gonna be able to irrigate it either.
Yeah, I wish I could give you an
All that
answer.
trouble.
I wish I could say I'd be all
Turning on the
for it.
road don't bother me. If you can't justify turning on a road and getting on a highway, then you shouldn't be driving. That shouldn't stop the sale of it, but if you ain't gonna benefit by it, by not being able to irrigate it, then we ought to just drop the whole thing.
Yeah,
Hate to see us
I
have
just-
property that we don't need,
I've been wanting to sell it for a long time. I mean, I can't see this working if Lyle's not even be able to work it yet. And right now, what you're telling us, it's not gonna work.
I know I could do a better job even if I did retain it as dry land. It needs some leveling work, and even that north fence line is way too high. And I could make it more productive as dry land, but I don't know if I'd want to do it for 2,000 an acre.
No.
but,
I understand that, and that figure came out, I said that, but based upon your 40 bushels to an acre, that part needs to come down.
So we just kicking it back for now, or canceling it, or what?
What would you like us to do, Lyle,
I guess
at this point?
at this point, maybe lower the minimum, I would be interested. I know the loan officer wasn't too happy when he heard that I'd only get 5.4 acres if the NRD did release it, so. But I really appreciate what Bruce did here, suggesting you sell the old railroad right away. That would help me out whether it's dry land or irrigated. I mean, maybe there's other buyers out there interested, would take it up over to, I don't know.
What's the rest do you think?
I said we would just hold off, we repeal it and hold off. That's just my opinion, we repeal it and then.
We just started advertising in the paper, I didn't see.
No.
Recognize if you're gonna do it, you've almost gotta start now or put it off for a year. Because if you don't start now, it's not gonna be in place in time for any improvements or farming for next year.
Right.
Take us, whether we start advertising the original resolution next week or the new resolution next week, it takes a couple months from then. So we're into early December for the sale. And then there's still the need to get whatever dirt work done, and, well, of course, that'll happen whenever it happens. But it's gotta get added to base acres and every other thing with the government. You can't start in March and have it productive for next summer. So if we're gonna start, if you're gonna do it, you should decide to do it now or put it off for a year perhaps. And think again.
What would you say, Lyle, if we decided to table it for a year and see what the corn prices do and see maybe what the
If the NRD lets releases acres or.
bring it back to the table next year sometime? I mean, you're pretty much probably the only
Yeah,
interested party here.
I'm probably the only like a person out there that could ever irrigate it. Nobody else would ever put in a well for, 25 acres. But, so, I guess I hope to buy it someday, whether I dryland farm it or irrigate it. And I'm optimistic that maybe they'll let me irrigate it, so. I guess I'd like to see us sell it, but like I say, I'd have to give it some serious thought if I want to pay the minimum bid for it. The current 2,000.
While you're thinking so hard, here's what the new resolution would be if you're gonna do it.
If you sold the whole thing and got rid of your transfer station down there and moved it up north, you'd get rid of the nuisance eyesores you come in on Highway 13. You would benefit Lyle.
Well, before we do that, I'd like to see some cost figures before I'd ever make a decision like that, because you're
Right.
talking.
I'm just throwing stuff
you're
out,
talking
everybody else
about
is
money.
talking, so I'm throwing an idea.
But if we sold this, I'd just about pay for a skid loader.
Oh, you already proved that, it's all good.
Did a copy make it down to you guys?
Just about.
And what this is the first parcel on the list, parcel 1, is the original surveyed chunk, the 20 acres. And then the second parcel is coming down the south side of that 20 acres until the road starts to curve, and then drops straight south to the highway right away, up the highway right away back to the county road, and back up the west line. So by just straight math, without, precisely detailed survey, you'd add about 24.5 acres. So you'd have right in the vicinity of 24.7 acres to sell, if you add the second tract. And I guess we should, I need you to get a decision one way or another, either repeal the old resolution or go with it, or do this. So we should, if you wanna dump the whole thing, repeal the one we passed last month.
I think the city bought that railroad right away from Don Mikey in 1988, and they called it, I think it was 3.3 acres or something like that, but you say it's like 4 or something.
Well, I'm counting the road.
Oh, the road. Oh, sure.
Or the road
That was-
lays too,
Yeah,
and
you're
that
right.
picks
So
up a little
3.3 plus 1.5 for the road.
Was this, didn't we survey this land and the fence was on the east side?
Oh, there was a teeny discrepancy in the east fence, a couple feet as it ran north and south, but it doesn't have anything to do with this. And that discrepancy in the survey is up against Lyle's border, so he doesn't care. I mean, it makes 0.03 of an acre difference or something.
0.22 acres is
Yeah.
that only discrepancy there.
Just a couple feet of something is cockeyed between the
Okay.
fence and the survey
Okay.
line, but nothing that makes any difference to what we're talking about. No, it's just, go with the old resolution, repeal the old resolution, or amend it by passing this.
What if we tabled it for a year, looked at the price of building a transfer station, moving it, which I'm opposed to, kinda, but. see-
Don't get too nice here,
Well, that's what I'm thinking, I mean, there's good and bad to all of it, even like Raleigh said too. I mean, it isn't a bad spot for Lyle. Maybe someday the chance is you could irrigate the whole thing. I guess I would table it for a year, get some concrete figures on what it would cost to move a transfer station.
Well, would it cost to move it, and would it cost to put in the culverts, all the dirt work for us to build that up?
And recognize if you pull the transfer station out of there, you probably increase the value of the property again,
Yeah.
even to Lyle.
but I
Because
think
at that
that-
point, you could darn near go clear around, couldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, if the
And
transfer
that'd
station
make it a lot
wasn't
easier
there.
to irrigate it.
that's what I'm thinking, I think maybe we should table it, get some concrete figures.
Well, Mike, the one thing that, you know, and keep in mind, and I understand what you can, but we've had this discussion a lot, but I think the $250,000 was JDO Engineering,
Yeah.
full outfit down there, and I think even when Coot and I were talking, or Raleigh and I were talking, I think you can take some of that. You're still gonna be looking at an investment because of the scale and stuff, there's no doubt about it, but how much can be offset by
So would
selling
we-
all of this?
Would we need the scale? I mean, we could still,
You could, but I mean, if you're gonna do that, I'd just go with the whole scale. I'd go with the system. The scale's pretty inexpensive compared to what else we
but
have.
I'd like to see some concrete figures on what it would cost before.
Still want me to go back to JDO?
I'd like to maybe try something different.
I understand. No, I mean, that is a very, I think, a very workable. I know that Lyle wants to go, but I'm looking at this and I gotta be honest, all I'm seeing is a mess. I'm not seeing anything good happening for the city. We're not making any money here to make it worth our time to do all this work and have a mess like that. I don't see the benefit quite, I know that it needs to go that direction, but for what you just said, 1 year, I think you'd be better off looking at the whole property.
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt that, I'd really benefit if I could go all the way around, but I've been reversing for, 20 years probably, And I should mention there, we did gravity irrigate, the east half of the present old lagoons there before the city, took the east, 12, 15 acres there. We did. And I brought that up to the NRD. I said, well, we used to irrigate it. Will you allow me to irrigate it, if I buy it? They said no additional acres.
Well, if you're talking about just waiting, you need to repeal the resolution that we just set.
I make a motion to repeal resolution number 538.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and second to appeal resolution 538. Julie? Tom? Mike?
All
Ryan?
Aye.
Let's get back in the ballgame next year, we'll come up with something.
Will you keep in contact, and obviously with Bruce, but will you keep in contact with, and find out with the LEM, the lower Elkhorn, if they're gonna do anything?
Yeah. I know I talked to Mike Krieger on the NRD, and he's pushing for it, so, in this area, so. Thank you for now.
Thanks, Lyle.
Thanks for your time, Lyle.
All right. Number 19, discussion action, special designated liquor license for St. Paul's Catholic Church, November 10th, 2017.
I make a motion that we approve this special designated liquor license for St. Paul's Catholic Church on November 10th.
Chicken fry.
Yeah,
I mean-
not fish, it says
Are you
chicken.
not frying chicken?
Oh, of course, Mike.
Do we?
In the motion, do we need to put the alternate date in there as
And the
well?
alternate date of November 11th.
On a holiday?
I'll be gone both those days.
Deer season.
Really?
Deer season.
There's only one season, deer
You
season.
might wanna
or no season.
alternate that alternate date too, because we're supposed to get a foot of snow that day.
Yeah.
Just gonna say that.
That's
I'm
the
out of
Farmer's
town, so-
Almanac, or?
Yeah, you'll have to come back to move
Oh,
snow.
90 days after it was
Oh,
thaw.
shoot, I'm out of town too. Daughter's over.
Yeah, you won't be here anyhow.
Oh, yeah, I put it all in my calendar.
We have a motion.
One second, make sure you let me know if it happens, because I'm not sure I buy it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of the special designated liquor license for St. Paul's Catholic Church on November 10th, 2017, or November 11th. Alternate date. Julie? Tom? Mike?
Aye.
Ryan?
Aye.
Discussion action approval of CDBG housing claim PLVW-HR-14. Looks like this.
I'm good.
Mike didn't get it.
I got it.
Well, no, it's upside down. Excellent.
You gotta open it before Tuesday at 2. Michael.
Is there a serious wood problem or is it bug?
Everything's good.
We just gotta
Are we supposed to approve this or what?
Yeah. You have to approve the $80.25, right?
It's a new grant, so you have to approve them to actually
Yes.
move forward with the grant. That's why your signature's on the bottom.
Oh.
Oh, so they're getting a 25 grand and
E-
they only used $80. Okay, so moved.
I'll second it.
So what do we have a motion second for approval of the,
Payment or grant?
Claim, I guess.
to approval of the claim?
It is a claim.
It's a claim. It's a loan that they've got.
Okay.
Yes.
You good with that, Courtney?
Mhm.
All right, Julie?
Oh,
Tom? Mike?
All right,
Brian?
I didn't get there yet.
No.
It's more of a yay than a.
Yeah. Yeas and nays?
Yeah, we can do it.
All right. Bruce, you have anything to add?
I have just a couple updates for you. That Lambert property, the one right north of the storage building over there. The lady and her husband are coming to town on the 16th of October, so I've just held documents and deeds waiting for them. They're gonna be here. We'll have a personal representative deed ready for her. She's selling it out of her mom's estate, well, she gives it to us for the $100. I'm presuming we're just gonna take title to the city of Plainview, huh? That's the way I've got it now. I mean, you'll have to decide what you're gonna do with this thing. But it's an easy capture of a nuisance disaster property, and you can get it out and take it out. So they're coming, and that should wrap up pretty well. They've still got a couple flaws in the situation with the title and the inheritance tax, and we'll get that straightened out, but it'll come along. And the foreclosure on the, getting rid of the old mortgage on the Sims property up north of the Catholic cemetery is in progress, and we're gonna file a motion for default. It's been long enough now that the bank that will never answer us when we call them didn't answer the lawsuit either. So I'll go in for a motion on default and get that taken away from them. And then that'll be for sale, and we'll have another of these. How much are we gonna put into it?
So another trip down to the sheriff?
But there's time. And we've got the lien filing ready to go for the Post Cafe. Scott signed all his stuff. He's got a lien or a note for the LB 840 money, but we've also got a lien filing for covering his inventory and his fixtures and stuff like that, and that'll be getting processed shortly. So that's all just a report. There's nothing to do with it. There you go.
I do have a question for Bruce. If the stuff I sent you, will that help in the process to go after Switzers at all, or do we have everything that we need?
Well, I need to see what you guys have done. There's a bankruptcy claim of some kind? Was that in the stuff you
I
sent?
thought I did, but if you
Well,
don't have
maybe
it,
it is.
I'll-
I hadn't gotten clear through it, getting ready for the meeting. But, you know, we got the trick with Switzers now is it's not just go after them, it's bankruptcy. You can't go after them while they're in bankruptcy, except in the bankruptcy. So we can do that and, you know, see if we can identify anything that they've hidden or falsified in their bankruptcy stuff and make sure the claim is as solid as it can be.
If they have a creditor date of assemblage?
I haven't studied all the
Okay,
stuff.
but is that something that normally we would go to?
Well, then there'll probably be more notices come. If the notices come and say, these people are totally destitute and nobody's gonna get anything, then there's small satisfaction in going to the creditor's hearing.
Okay.
But if there's some argument to be had about priority or what's going on, it might be worth a look. I mean, for instance, after he got his LB 840 loan and while they were still out here, he bought himself a new $60,000 Ford pickup. One would wonder where's the pickup? And is it being sold as part of the bankruptcy? Or something like that. That sort of stuff is pretty aggravating, and it needs to be looked at. But I will be after it here this next month.
A month or so, they were selling stuff privately on Facebook.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Tools, everything.
Oh, yeah. Iron, tools.
Mhm.
Well, and that's all part of the package. I mean, are they hiding stuff? Are they squirreling away some of their stuff and keeping the money, or are they turning all this in? If we can identify any of that, we should. I mean, if they're somehow trying to scam the whole thing and there's fraud involved, they gotta be talked to. So, yeah, it needs a look, but I've gotta get after the bankruptcy stuff first.
Okay.
I mean, we've gotta see what they've filed and what they're doing and what the plan is. But it's a straight bankruptcy. It's kiss it goodbye, take the, whatever the minimums are that they get to keep and go home. But we gotta see the bankruptcy file stuff to know. Anything you do's gotta be done in there. We can't sue them,
Right.
you can't do anything. That's where it stands.
Thanks, Bruce. Julie, do you have anything?
I don't.
Tom?
I think
Did
you
you
might wanna,
through-
go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, did you go through the rest of your report?
No. That's all right, go ahead and go through.
We might wanna get a hold of the zoning board and maybe question, I see there's kind of been a shift towards rural people moving to town and they start building large structures on the lots that they've purchased. Where, is there some way that we could limit the amount of a property percentage that they can have covered with structure?
Sure.
Because I think with this Sims lot coming free, somebody might try to put up a big building on that corner because that building's gonna have to sit at an angle.
Correct.
Because if you try to go east-west with it and line it up with the existing structures, it's not gonna be worth their time. So then somebody might try to buy that and plant a 75 by 100 machine shed
Yeah.
on that corner.
You guys haven't been in on this from the beginning, but remember the big picture is there are square foot limits to developing a lot when you got a house on it and other
Mhm.
stuff. But a few years back, the council opened up the possibility of you can build an accessory building that's not adjacent to your house. So that's why you see the machine sheds popping up all over town. My theory is when the guy's wife tells him, you're not putting that damn ugly monstrosity in our backyard, he goes and builds it in Sally's backyard.
Exactly. But,
And,
you know, I understand
well,
that
you have
there's,
machine sheds going up all over town.
I understand that there's property tax bump up, you know, because that lot's not empty anymore, but
And there's a lot of.
there's gotta be a point to where you kinda say enough's enough. You don't wanna inhibit people, but like,
Yeah.
not monstrous buildings, and if they do make it kinda blend in with the house or the
That's
neighborhood.
what I wanna see on my front window.
But,
That's what I wanna see on my front window.
There is a 12 point, there's a 12 point step, or steps that they have to take in the residential areas that they cannot build an outhouse. They cannot build an accessory building. They cannot build an accessory building without your footage limits, your height, your,
There's a lot of limits, but they're pretty liberal.
they're a lot liberal, they
You
used
can put a
to.
machine shed on a vacant lot pretty easy. It can turn into a pretty big machine shed. Because those square foot limits that were created in the zoning code were presuming a house and a garage and a shed taking up that total square feet. Now, if you just do that with a machine shed, you got one big machine shed on a piece of property. So you could sure look at those and have the zoning board talk about it if you want to.
that's all I have.
Thanks, Tom. Mike?
All I got is just for you. Building permits, we're gonna get those in the paper.
Yes, yes, yes. They are all in an Excel spreadsheet,
I just think it's a good idea.
I don't know if we've had one in the last.
See what happens when I get my ditch done, he focuses on Mike.
But I just think it's a good idea that people.
It is, we haven't had
Instead of asking
anything to,
questions.
But the old ones certainly can go in, and we might as well have a listing, maybe 2017 building permits, and I've got that.
Brian, you got anything?
I don't know where Tom's talking about, but I did drive around today and I saw the one between your two, where the arson was. It looked like a replacement structure that was pretty nice.
Yeah, Nadine Chevet put up a nice
Oh,
little
yeah.
structure there where the arson was, and by and large, there's been a lot of, I guess it'll lead into it, but just to keep in mind that, Darren and I went down to Lincoln, and we did go down to the nuisance home workshops, and there was a lot of things being done in other communities similar. Actually, we're not doing anything that extraordinarily wrong. I mean, we're actually being proactive, which a lot of them seem to like, but because the same thing came out. What do we do about things that have been just blossoming? And you've got a lot of different communities with a lot of different answers and a lot of different procedures. Bruce, and we talk about the Board of Health. That's one of the procedures that seems to work well, but there's several different ways. We don't do it, and I understand why, but the nuisance abatement programs that they do, there's a lot of nuisance abatement things where they just have third parties come in and identify, and, that's the way you go forward. But, that's, Norfolk we could bring someone in from Norfolk to do that. We've talked about that, but first things first, we need to figure out, what it is we want to do. So, we actually attended two different, the same session on nuisance homes, but he was in one and I was in the other. Hopefully we capture things out there. But we came away, at least I thought, Darren, with the idea that we're not doing anything wrong. In fact, we probably are a little bit lax, and we could be a little bit stronger in our presentation. I don't know if we need to, but we certainly haven't done anything.
On that topic, I don't know if they had it in our seminar, but we've seen some stuff, bigger cities mostly, but they're starting to pass additional nuisance laws for the regulation of what they're calling zombie properties.
Yeah.
That are held by lenders. I mean, we've had some of these.
We've had zombie properties.
And the zombie property laws impose requirements of mowing, boarding up. You will do this, you will do that, we will fine you this much a week. More than residential requirements that you would do to your citizens. But for the zombie properties, it really cracks these banks that have these junk loans and these abandoned properties. That looks to me like something maybe we could gain by putting new stuff in the code. To stay after the deadbeat lenders, mail order loans, and these turning into abandoned properties that nobody cares about. They just sit there.
The last thing that I did want to, and I'll leave it at that so we can get going and get out of here, was a little concerned. It's about that time where there's some lax things going on with boards, and obviously we want to keep council apprised of the whole thing. But last night came to mind, and there's some things that are going on with different boards about the Open Meetings Act. That Open Meetings Act is pretty straightforward. This isn't a guessing game. Well, we can do this and we can't do that. And Bruce and I have always been quite a bit on agreement. In fact, I've got some of his stuff he's given me, and I've had some stuff from the league and from the executive boards themselves. But even on postings and communications and how we present ourselves in a meeting and what you can and cannot do, I think we do a pretty good job. I mean, I'm not saying this, but I've had boards that I think it's time for maybe one of these days a reminder on protocol process in the Open Meetings Act, because it doesn't take that much to get thrown underneath the bus, and they're not that far away. I was reading the Attorney General opinions on Verdigris, Beamer, I mean, you name it. I can tell you towns all the way around here that have violated some kind of Open Meetings Act, and it stopped them in their tracks from what they're doing. It's a felony, not a felony, it's a misdemeanor.
If you recall, I've made speeches about that before.
I know you have, Bruce, and so I mean, but every once in a while, just to seem like a reminder.
One other thing along that line is if you want to avoid getting a phone call from the Supreme Court Council for Discipline on the Illegal Practice of Law, you shouldn't put out your emails that say your duty as the city administrator is to legally advise the boards.
Yeah, I did probably say legally, I probably should say advise. Yeah, I probably said advise, because one of the things
They
that.
will come talk to you
Oh,
if
yeah.
you keep mentioning stuff like that on the internet.
One of the things, and funny you should mention that, because that actually is a point. I mean, and before I came on to any of these board, they had nobody that go to the board meetings, period. They were running rampant. And of course, I went to the first one, now I'm stuck. That's okay, I mean, because I think it's part of the duty, but I'm just shocked at the lack of professionalism on a lot of the boards. And I think maybe as a council, you just need to be aware that we need to do a cleanup.
You need Lynn Rex to come up here?
Sure, she would hammer the crap out of them, yes. But we don't need her. We got Bruce.
She speak at your meeting?
I've attended seminars with her, yes. She scares me to death.
She kinda knows her stuff.
Yes, she does.
They will, I mean.
Yeah, she doesn't even need notes. She just rattles this stuff off.
I think the big thing is that it is no longer, especially closed sessions, and we haven't done this, so this is one thing you're very good about, but closed sessions, you can't simply do in good faith, and I've watched a lot of this around the area. Closed sessions for a closed session, you just can't do that, So anyway, I bring that up because it's actually kind of bothering me a lot, it's 24 hours, so.
Okay then.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
There'll be motion and second to adjourn, Julie?
Aye.
Tom? Mike?
Aye.
Brian? Meeting adjourned.
Richard Applebach says, take it easy.
Everybody's gassed.
I'm getting sick.
I think I am too.
Yeah.
Bruce, did I use the word legal advice in that email?
Twice.
Twice? Did I say those two words?
Every day.
Not only once, but
Would you like me to get up and talk
No, I was about ready to sit there and bite it on and say.
You stop right on
back? It's kind of what they should say. It's a lot of writing out laws. Is everybody write in the resolution?
So why would
Is everybody going down water?
I give them a copy of the resolution.
Why, you gonna go?
Your son is really.
Yeah, the only-
His parents lived in one next to his church. And lived in another one. And then they sold that one. Yeah, they sold that one. Yeah, they sold
I'm going home.
Well, take some pictures of the
Yeah,
road
I had a
beside
board.
it. Have a back, we'll always go.
That's all you gotta do is just mention what it's about.
Oh, you just stated. There you go. Thanks for
How the integrity of a person.
Well, it's worth a try.
Case
But I
closed.
think things are-
You know how you walk in,
That's a good discussion.
because he's the one that always fights it all. Well, why you going in?
If it would come to pass.
You just stay going in.
For sure.
Yes. And I think the biggest thing is
Because that definitely helped what you did. Oh, yeah, I think it would slow down a little bit. Okay, well, you're very welcome. We'll keep it going. Yeah.
In case needed.
Yeah, that's not supposed to be on that. There's stuff to be done.
Tom's dropped the ball on his job duties over there.
What'd he do? Not do.
No, Mike. Mike. I gotta wait for you.
I'm the mic guy.
That key. I hope.
I'm the mic.
And don't go anywhere.
Get your paperweight, Tom.
For what?
12-inch paperweight. About the size of a
About
yellow.
a 3.5-inch thick paperweight.
About all it's gonna be, buddy.
Like a mini email.
Wouldn't surprise me
I thought you
tomorrow
said it's 2.
Wouldn't surprise me tomorrow morning, I go up there and there's 2 holes in the ground.
Were they rechecking it?
No, there'd be no plug in it.
Fell in?
Hey, Mike.
And then we have them. They didn't tell me about it.
Actually, I can order those pretty cheap now.
Again, it's
I got a flyer.
loose enough for me, I don't know where to get
Oh, nice.
that. Well, you want to see something, I said, well, I said, well, what the information, come in here, you want to see that,
No, I bought that. They don't come in.
They want to see
Aha.
match.
City meeting is over.
Hey, I got a $900 lead
Want me to recover your piece of it? Oh, you're here?
Everybody's using them now.
Just to say that I have, you know, so I said, so could I write another nonprofit? If you have it, if you
Those
have
are
it,
girls. Don't include
then
me.
yes, the county law consider that part of the fundraiser. But,
You going down to the bar or going home? Bar?
Well, it's about time.
I gotta go legally advise somebody at the bar. Should we do that, Bruce?
It's like the good old days. It's like the good old days. Pay somebody at work for 6 hours and then do it all myself anyway.